the environment. We cannot survive without the environment. That is why this is a very, very important aspect to pay attention to, both at policy level, policy and legal level. We need to encompass discussions about water and environment. Climate change is real. It is something that we cannot do away with, affecting us. We're blessed that today we had some rains, but in the recent past few weeks or months, many of us had put aside our duvets because it was literally very, very hot. This is a space where we need to get all these discussions going on. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite the chairperson, the National Organizing Committee, Dr. Florence, to come and speak to us about this, which is going to be a week-long series of activities, both online and physical, to get this discussion more in-depth. A round of applause for Dr. Adongo as she comes to speak to us.
Hello? Yes? Stella? Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Water and Environment, Deputies, Minister of State present here, honorable members of Parliament, our development partners, Your Eminence, the Metropolitan, Your Eminence, the Metropolitan, the co-chair of Uganda Christian Council, Bishop of Orthodox Church, distinguished leaders in your respective ladies and hello. Let me say protocol observed. Welcome to the 6th Water and Environment Week. Indeed, we are very happy because we are celebrating the 6th anniversary of our thoughts that took place in 2018, and it has become reality and widened its scope and incorporating very many key stakeholders, among which you are one and some are online. The 6th Uganda Water Week is being held under the theme Water and Environment Week for Climate Resilient Development. The previous speaker has already said something about the issue of water and environment and its importance, especially in this dynamic era of climate change. We have about 4 themes that we are going to look at. We have a theme that deals with the policy, legal, and institutional framework for climate resilient development, resilience of community and ecosystems and infrastructure in Uganda, the capacity and partnership for climate resilience development. And the last sub-theme is on innovative financing mechanisms. As you are aware, We usually have the Water and Environment Week subdivided into 3 parts. We have prevent activities that take place a week before this day. We have the event activities that is going to take us from today up to 17th. But we also have post-event activities to look at what we have done, document, evaluate, and also disseminate. So we are here at the opening on the 12th of March, 2023, here at the ministry's headquarters. At the pre-event activities, one of the key ones was the walk, 320-kilometer walk by the Uganda's Workers Association, together with the Ministry of Water and Environment and many key stakeholders. There were many other activities that we are going to highlight later on, which involved all different stakeholders, including the youth, including the religious organizations, key stakeholders in different places, including schools and universities. And we want to thank all of them for participating. We had regional activities in all our regional centers in the country, including Mbale, Fort Portal, Mbarara, Kampala here, and Gulu. So these are the pre-event activities. During this opening ceremony, we are going to look at a few key areas, including keynote presentation and dialogue by our high-level panel. And we shall also have, in the course of the week, have training in 6 different thematic areas. We shall have different papers, scientific, policy, and practice presented. We shall have side events. We also have exhibitions. We have meetings. We have online exhibitions and online field tours, and so many other activities that we'd want to invite all of you to take part. We have since risen to high level of participation. From the time we started, we started with 400. As we talk now, we are in 2,000, and both physical and online. And we want to thank all of you and all participating for being part of this important event. We have since had partners in different areas at university level, cultural institutions, religious institutions, media engagement, schools, and others with non-state actors. We expect that with the key messages that we are going to take on this week, it will be important to inform our people to undertake action on the ground to restore our environment, protect our resources, so that we can harness it for the years to come. Key recommendations from these, from proceedings and from discussions will be documented to guide policy decisions. We also expect to learn a lot from each other and strengthen our partnership. Once again, I want to thank you most sincerely, our guest of honor. I want to thank our minister and all the leadership of the Ministry of Water and Environment. I want to thank all of you guests who are here, our partners, sponsors, conveners, and co-conveners, our exhibitors, and all of you in your respective capacities. We want lastly to thank the National Organizing Committee. It has been a very long time of planning, and now we are putting it to implementation, and we hope that, as usual, it will become better and better. Once again, I want to take this opportunity to wish all of us a very good Water and Environment Week. Thank you very much.
Surely, can we put our hands together once again for Dr. Florence? And at this moment, allow me to request the National Organizing Committee, if you could stand for recognition. Dr. Florence as chair, and all the members of the Organizing Committee. Dr. Kalis, please stand. All the members of the NOC. There you go. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you, Doctor, and the team. It's just day one, but as Dr. Flores mentioned, the activities actually began a little earlier with the walk, and the walkers, I think, arrived here on Thursday, yes, and they were received by. Again, we keep losing sound, but hopefully along the way we'll have resolved this. So before we continue and before I invite the Austrian Development Corporation to come and speak to us, allow me ask you and request you to turn to the screen. We have a very short video that speaks to this Water and Environment Week and also what this week represents in the 2023 year calendar. Let's turn to the screen.
Uganda's tree cover currently stands at 12.4% of the total surface area, while wetlands account for only 8.9% as opposed to 50% and 30% coverage in the 1990s, respectively. This is mainly due to constant pressures exerted on the environment by increased urbanization, charcoal burning, and illegal encroachment on wetlands for agricultural activities. This constant environmental degradation is responsible for several local climate change effects that are causing significant challenges to Uganda's economic growth and livelihoods. To nip the situation in the bud, better management of water and environmental resources is going to be critical if Uganda is to attain sustainable socio-economic transformation. Already, government is working with various stakeholders in the country to restore the degraded environment in the fastest ways possible.
We are working around the corner as a police position to give alternative sources of livelihood to our people. So deliberately we are going to sensitize our people and supply them with seedlings which like cashew nut, macadamia, avocado, shea nuts. These ones, once they're planted and becomes cash crops, they're not going to be cut down. We are also promoting bamboo growing to step in for fuel use. So all these are policy deliberate strategies that we have already put in place, and the World Bank has given us funds which we are going to engage in those districts where are hosting the refugees and bringing the refugees in participating in the restoration. So these are deliberate, and we think it will help us cope up very fast.
For us, this is a very, very big success that we are getting those stakeholders who are going to work with us, supporting us to move this agenda. For example, the churches. The churches really have a network all over the country, but their word is respected. When they speak, people will listen. The cultural institution the same. So for us, that's a very, very big achievement. We do believe that the Ugandans will get messages from many stakeholders and they will be able to do what is needed.
Added to this, every year since 2018, the government, through its Ministry of Water and Environment, together with the Water Resources Institute, organizes a one-week-long sensitization event on water and environment across the country. The event, dubbed Uganda Water and Environment Week, is one of the ways through which government can continue to create awareness and knowledge, as well as giving the people of Uganda the right skills on how to harness water and environmental resources, which are the backbone of the country's socio-economic development. This year's event, the sixth of its kind, is running under the theme Water and Environment for Climate Resilient Development, and aims to contribute to the attainment of the National Development Plan 3, SDGs, and Vision 2040. It further looks at integrating climate resilience into growth and development policies, requiring a concerted long-term approach and an explicit inclusion into national planning and budgeting processes.
These water are found in towers or resources such as forestry, wetlands, etc. And some of these other resources that have the open resource available, like the river, Lake Victoria, etc., are shared resources. Therefore, we need to equitably manage them. So the resources therefore will go towards ensuring that we sustainably manage the environment, but also ensure that the water resources are available for productive purposes and for consumption. And this is in line with also the Paris development model, whereby we are looking at transforming the parishes from peasantry to have economic activities. They need the water for production, they need the water for drinking, they need the water for schools, they need the water for the health centers, name it. So we need to invest in water and environment.
This year's 6th UWEUC edition kicked off with a 320-kilometer walk on the 28th of February from the Kingfisher Development Area in Kikuwe District to the ministry headquarters, and an array of other activities such as tree planting, cleaning up exercises, and the youth debate competitions.
We now need to bring up the youth that are aware of environment, water, and climate. So several universities are doing youth debates on the same theme, and there's competition. The best will come here and they'll get awards. So we want to encourage the youth through Youth Go Green also to take up matters of water resources, climate, and environment very seriously.
The event activities will culminate into a hybrid, virtual and physical conference, which will dwell on the improved understanding of the linkages between climate resilience, economic growth, and improved livelihood of communities in emerging challenges in management and development of water and environment resources in Uganda, and the need for a systematic review of linkages, policy options, and knowledge gaps with a view of addressing these challenges. The event also coincides with the commemoration of 3 international days, that is the World Forest Day, the World Water Day, and the World Meteorological Day, which fall on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of March, respectively.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're descending into Entebbe Airport. For those proceeding to Kampala City, the biggest event in East Africa is in town.
That's right, the East African Business Expo 2023 is happening from the 23rd to the 26th of March at Kololo Grounds. Join us to network, connect, and grow. Contact us for exhibition or sponsorship opportunities. The 14th East African Procurement Forum and Business Expo 2023 is hosted by PPDA.
Now sit back and relax. It's time to explore great business opportunities.
Talk with freedom. Get MTN Freedom Voice bundles that don't expire. Dial *100 *21# or my MTN app for more bundles. Together, we're unstoppable.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president.
Their support meant so much to me. And as a teenage girl, I stayed focused and was protected from child marriage and teenage pregnancy. I will support other girls against child marriage and teenage pregnancy.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sauti 116.
Paying your bills the old way.
Let's go. Just need to buy some power.
Paying your bills with the My Airtel app.
Bro, there's a line.
You have the power in your pocket.
The power to instantly pay your bills hassle-free. Unlock that power with the My Airtel app. Visit the App Store or Google Play now.
Oh, you're back.
The Uganda Water and Environment Week is back. Join us as we deliver value internally and externally by promoting a multinational integrated approach that links all sectors of water and environment, and also explore and deliberate on the water and environment resources to climate resilience. The week commemorates 3 sector days of World Water Day, World Forestry Day, and World Meteorological Day. The Uganda Water and Environment Week will take place from 12th to 17th March 2023 at the Ministry of Water and Environment headquarters in Luzira, under the theme Water and Environment for Climate Resilient Development.
Uganda Water and Environment Week is organized by Ministry of Water and Environment through the Water Resources Institute with support from development partners.
The Austrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in cooperation with competent aligned ministries and organizations in Uganda, promotes environmental protection and climate change adaptation as well as mitigation at a global level. And therefore, the Austrian Development Corporation mirrors these goals in all our activities, including within Uganda. But some might wonder why, as Europe, we put so much emphasis now on environmental protection. But I can see all these climate change activists lining up in front of my office, reminding me every day, never getting tired, asking, are we not breathing the same air, all of us? Ladies and gentlemen, the Water and Environmental Week is a timely platform to point out some of these outstanding ongoing milestones and the contribution of Austria, Germany, and other fellow European Union member states in the water and environment sectors in Uganda is notable. Just to mention, for example, that Austria and Germany support water and sanitation, integrated water management, natural resource management, and climate change support mitigation with a portfolio of 81 million euros, out of which 33 million are grant funding. Our projects are implementing through our esteemed partners that we value, such as governmental institutions, including the Ministry of Water and Environment, NGOs, UN agencies, academic partners, and we do so in all corners of these very beautiful countries. So I have to say that we put a special focus on the North. In order, for example, to have a very efficient cooperation within the European Union, we, as the Austrian Development Corporation, we partner with GIZ in the north of Uganda to serve both refugees and their hosts with safe drinking water, and we do so within the GIZ WhatsApp project. But there is more than only what I have said. Regarding support from the entire European Union member states and institutions, Uganda currently benefits from a portfolio of 500 million euros that includes more than 60 million grants currently being invested in the sector and 250 million euros in the environment sector, as recently reported by the development partners of both the water and sanitation and also the environment partners working group. This clearly demonstrates the European Union's commitment to the sector, and we're certain that together as partners, true partners, we can make not only a contribution, we can make a meaningful contribution. Effective and coordinated contributions by donors is becoming more and more pertinent as the sector is becoming resource constrained. Besides public funding, we therefore strongly believe that there's a great potential for leveraging international climate funding, and as development partners, we stand ready to support the Pearl to access this, as is demonstrated by a very vibrant environmental partners group. Honorable Chair, I hope that you can commit and reveal to the Honorable Speaker that we have to also call upon your august institution to ensure that appropriate funding is given to the wash sector. It seems that some statistics indicate that access to safe water is going down in some rural areas. We humbly request to make a dedicated discussion and commitment by the August House about these facts. Ladies and gentlemen, globally, the Austrian Development Corporation focuses on 3 development areas, seemingly very easy: combating poverty, ensuring peace, and protecting the environment. Wish it was so easy at all. We have therefore, in this view, established a seamless and tight collaboration with the government on Uganda dating back more than 40 years. We are delighted to inform that we also strive to respond to crisis, and therefore the Austrian government, alongside other EU partners, was able to mobilize additional resources for the sector, such as within the COVID-19 pandemic and following the outbreak of the Ebola virus. We were once more reminded, simply, just wash our hands. As we are all aware, the current global climate crisis increases the magnitude of existing problems, particularly in our partners within the development world. This is not merely an environmental or water problem. It jeopardizes joint efforts towards and poverty reduction. In this view, we believe that the recently signed EU forestry partnership with Uganda will ensure that Uganda's forests can fully contribute to the sustainable economic and social development of this country, and do so with a view to safeguard environmental protection. I had the personal privilege to admire the magnificence of Bugoma and Soka forests, and I truly would wish that many generations, many generations to come will also enjoy their cool breeze, just as I did myself. Dear participants, I'm also pleased to note that as Austria, through our efforts to support protection of the environment in Uganda, we are working together with partners like UNDP, ably represented here, IUCN, the Global Water Partnerships, and the Ministry of Water and Environment regarding the restoration of wetlands. As we just heard in the video, by protecting and restoring wetlands, we are protecting the habitats of wild animals and breeding grounds for thousands of birds, including the beautiful crested crane, Uganda's national bird. This is important not only for us to drink the water, but also for millions of tourists to come and admire the crane. However, I'm wondering, is the changing of gears in our policies and actions fast enough? We know, for example, that the balance between pre-disaster and post-disaster investment depends on the specific context. But many experts, including certainly in this room, recommend investing more in preparedness and impress on us to put more emphasis on adaptation to global threats caused by climate change. This will also yield in much higher returns for investments, including in water-stressed regions. So we're asking, can we jointly make Uganda's north green and fertile? Dear participants, let me further note that the 2022 annual performance report of the Ministry's Program for Natural Resources and Environment points out the ever-increasing population pressure as a threat to already made steps in addressing some of the main challenges in the sector. We have to start talking honestly about this development, though difficult it might be. Dear participants, we should also finally acknowledge and cherish the role played by academia and civil society, not only as our partners, but we also need to showcase their work that they're doing, not only focusing on us, the governments, or the development partners, in pertaining and attaining the SDGs and goals of the NDP3. As I have seen on hundreds of occasions during my missions to all the corners of this country, north, west, south, east, and central of the Pearl, the civil society organizations and NGOs have made a tremendous contribution to Uganda's development. But as governments, we also need the NGOs and the media as sometimes putting a comfortable or uncomfortable mirror in front of us, showcasing what was right, what was wrong, though appreciating their watch role, dog, and advocacy role. Therefore, the policy, legal, and institutional framework needs to be favorable for everyone to speak and contribute to Uganda's development and preserve, first and foremost, the beauty that we can see from our windows. And we do this not for us, but we do this for the benefit of the generations to come. We therefore remain as development partners fully committed to work with everybody, besides, obviously, all the three branches of government, including executive, judiciary, and legislative, as well as with the CSO, academia, and other stakeholders, including the cultural and religious organizations, in order to improve the quality of life of Ugandans through protecting and conserving the environment, and therefore ensure that we can drink what is in front of us, the clean water. Let me conclude by thanking once more the Honorable Minister organizing the 2023 Water and Environment Week, and stress that the European Union remains committed to supporting and working with all our partners and the Ugandan government to attain its developmental goals as outlined in the NDP3. And we do so by keeping in mind to cherish, safeguard, polish, and treasure the pearl unique of Africa. Thank you so much for your attention.
Once again, a bigger round of applause to Dr. Rosa Kramer, also representing our development partners as well. We'll be listening to them more. I did about that. Earlier on, I did create the linkage between water and environment and industrialization, but I think she's even put it better, creating the linkage between water and environment and tourism. I normally say tourism is the low-hanging fruit, for our economy, because we are already gifted by nature. I mean, if you look at Uganda's currency, the currency change theme was Uganda gifted by nature. You want to look at a bit of what Uganda has, you look at our currency. That's definitely it. And it clearly connects to literally all the sustainable development goals. If you look at zero hunger, which is goal number 2, tell me you can talk about that. It definitely cannot come to pass. If you talk about goal number 3, which is about good health and well-being, there is no way you're leaving aside water and environment. Go ahead to goal number 5, gender equality. Because if we have water sources that are as far, and women have to move kilometers to be able to find a safe water source, then there is a lot to play with regard to dealing with gender equality. Clean water and sanitation, which is goal number 6, or is it climate action, which is goal number 13, or is it below the water? which is goal number 14. Even life on land, we can't live without water and environment. And above all, I think what Dr. Roswitha represented well was goal number 17, which is partnerships. Because we cannot do this alone. Government cannot do this alone. Ministry of Water cannot do this alone. We need to work together and make sure that we protect the environment, the water sources. Allow me now to invite the next speaker, who earlier on also gave us a prayer, is the Metropolitan Euronymous Mosei. Oh, sorry, I think we'll need this sorted. We will need this sorted a little before we can have our next speaker. But of course, later on, we'll also be able to have a very lovely poem from one of the ladies speaking about the environment. You know, we take it for granted sometimes that even right now we are breathing. You're forgetting that you're breathing because you're giving the plants what they need, which is carbon dioxide, and then taking in what they're giving us, which is oxygen. Remember your science just a little bit more. So do not take life for granted. And the breeze that we're having, I think the location of Ministry of Water is just so strategic that we have a bit of a cool breeze coming in from Lake Victoria, which is totally different from probably the areas where we stay, where we have a lot of noise pollution and pollution from the cars coming through. So we do not have to take life for granted, and the environment that we have, and like I said earlier on, the environment can live without us. But if we cut down all the trees and the water bodies have dried up, can we be able to stay and live even for a day? That is even very, very hard. So allow me invite, as we get the audio sorted. Okay, thank you so much. That is sorted. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, allow me to invite Archbishop of the Orthodox Church, His Eminence Euronymous Mosei, to speak to us.
Honorable Sam Emmanuel Otara, representing Speaker of Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, and guest of honor, Right Honorable Anita, Honorable Sam Cheptoris, the Minister of Water and Environment, Honorable Aisha Sekidi, the State Minister for Water, Honorable Betras Anwar, the State Minister for Environment, Mrs. Susan Ngonji Namondo, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Dr. Rosisa Kreme, the head of Mission Austria Development Corporation in Uganda, all protocol observed. I sincerely believe that an integrated and interdisciplinary approach to water and environmental issues can help Uganda, our beloved country, not only to be the Pearl of Africa, but also to be truly the Garden of Eden of the Holy Scriptures. My remarks here below are a reflection of theological thoughts on the matter. Man is at the center since he was created in the image and likeness of the Creator God. And he was entrusted with the vocation to cultivate it and to keep it, as per Genesis 2:15. God's creation was very good. When faced with the ecological crisis of our times, obviously there are many questions that are raised. One temptation can be, among these questions raised, is to put the blame on God, the Creator. But the Holy Scripture's narrations have no room for such a blame. For they clearly say, on completion of his six-day creation, God saw everything he had done, he had made, and behold, it was very good. Genesis 1:31. Important to note was God's care for water in the Garden of Eden. A stream followed in Eden and watered the garden. Beyond Eden, it was divided into 4 rivers. Genesis 2:10. In this creation, man who was created in God's image had the vocation to cultivate it and to keep it. There must be a reason why God did this. The very reason could be summarized by saying the following. This world was given to man as a gift from God, the Creator, as a healing gift, a gift of wonder, and a gift of beauty. This can be even attributed to our beloved country, Uganda. Therefore, man's proper response upon receiving such a gift is to accept and embrace it with gratitude and thanksgiving. In other words, to use it well for the glory of God. Man is seen as the root cause of ecological crisis. Unfortunately, man sinned. In his sin, everything changed. One could ask, what is sin? Sin is man's rebellion against God, the Creator. His refusal to live by God's will. It is the perversion of God's purpose and order put in nature. A good example in this case is the problem we have now of homosexuality. Therefore, it is man's deliberate refusal to have communion with God, fellow man, and creation, which is contributing to the environmental crisis we are dealing with. As a result, man actually failed in his vocation to keep it and to cultivate it, as mentioned earlier. Instead, man was passed under the dominion of the evil one. Certainly, as a result of man's sin, the human mind became darkened and the human will was impaired. He could live by exploitative control of resources. His actions on creation were to destroy than to keep. At all times, he could be a being of selfishness and greed. In this case, there was a need for an ontological transformation. This is what we call man's repentance. You and I must repent to save human nature, to save creation. In our Much as St. Paul could reveal us the truth, the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs. Romans 8:22. Christ's mission of recreation. Let me make it clear right from the outset that true Christians are and must be environmentalists. This is because the incarnation of the Word of God was to liberate man from his rebellion, and in the process, the whole creation. Man in Christ is a new creature, something we referred to above as an ontological transformation. To accept Christ, man must repent. A new creature is a son of God by grace. He lives by the will of God. St. Paul had noted it that creation eagerly waits for the revealing of the sons of God. Romans 8:19. Since it will be delivered from the bondage of corruption into glorious liberty of the children of God. Romans 8:21. The loving recreation of the world by divine word at the incarnation of God's Son is very crucial in understanding our mission as followers of Jesus Christ. Indeed, Christians have to be models and have to play a decisive role in solving the environmental crisis. The Holy Spirit, giver of life. Earlier we made it clear man is of love with God, his fellow man, man is rebellion. In Christ, man is reconciled again or reconciled to God. Guided by the Holy Spirit, man is able to live in communion with God, fellow man, and creation in a proper way. Man's vocation to receive creation as a gift from God is completely restored. His preparedness to use it well for the glory of God is reaffirmed. Christ's church, full of the Pentecost spirit, and is an extension of the redeeming mission of Christ in centuries, ever accept and embrace God's gift with gratitude and thanksgiving in all its services. As a matter of fact, our generation has to understand we are called upon as Christians to live fully in the communion of love for the salvation of creation. Important to note, this planet, our home, is also the home of everyone, as it is the home of every animal creature, as well as every form of life created by God. Our generation, therefore, should consider the same for the generations to come. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and is the source of life. If it is defiled, the element and the sense of our existence are threatened. This is true for us and for the generations to come. Efforts protect God's creation. God's people are called upon now to protect God's creation. Who are God's people? These are those redeemed by Christ and now guided by the Holy Spirit and living by the will of God. These are the sons of God I mentioned earlier. These are the people prepared to fight the evils of individualism and consumerism, preparing the secular spirit of egoism. At the center of egoism is self-interest. Very often, man puffed up by egoism in our world of technological advancement leaves no room for God. It only brings about the spirit of sexualism. Here man destroys God's creation. He creates his own world without God. In the Garden of Eden, much as we saw, rivers were flowing. In man's megacities, in most cases, to our disappointment, we see filthy liquids flowing. Man must change, and change fundamentally. The prophetic voice of the church is to bring about this change. And this change means, among other things, addressing poverty, inequality, discrimination, marginalization, domination, and exploitation in all their forms. We must become really children of God by grace. To become children of God by grace is to fully be committed to the will of God. It means to do away with egoistic tendencies. To be children of God also means to be faithful to God's purpose and intent for creation. Environmental degradation and destruction are nothing else but suicide. Thank you very much for listening to me, for God and my country.
Thank you very much. For a minute I was tempted. I was tempted to remind those who didn't go to church today that you at least have a sermon. You had a sermon free of charge. A round of applause for that. And a sermon which is directly connected to what we're talking about, water and environment. So if I think I will attempt to change one of his statements that a true Christian should and is supposed to be an environmentalist. So I believe for every true religious person, if you're not an environmentalist, then you're lying to yourself. You need to have harmony between you and the supernatural being. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had quite a bit of talking. We need to listen to the arts industry and get to understand that communication about water and environment not only through the speeches and the dialogues and the panels that we're going to have, but we can pass on this conversation through the arts industry, music, dance and drama, poems, and that is what we're having up next. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and let's invite Jessie Mulungi, who is going to be letting us in on what kind of communication she actually has for us, but that is about what we're talking about through the arts world. Jessie, welcome.
The signs, my heart beats like a jungle drum when the standing at the Hello, thank you. Hello everyone. Good evening. I just bless the Lord to be here. Before I do anything, I just want to thank the ministry to think about us as artists, as talented people, to be part of the struggle for water and environment. I'm so happy. Yeah, I'm Jessie Mulungi Male. I'm married and I'm a mother. I work with Relax Bang as a recording artist, and I'm behind many company adverts. And as a mother, I love nature because it's we women and my kids that stay home, do domestic work, and domestic work is mostly driven by water. Yeah. Everything that you do at home, you need water. So we have to preserve water and environment. Yeah, I think I can proceed. Standing at the crossroads and reading the signs, my heart beats like a jungle drum. When the waves in the seas, lakes and rivers are rolling towards the shores, nature's sound creates its own music. Birds flying, the sun shining, and the breeze so cool. Mother Nature is all. Standing at the crossroads and reading the signs, my heart beats like a jungle drum. When the waves in the seas, lakes and rivers are rolling towards the shores, nature's sound creates its own music. Birds flying, the sun shining, and the breeze so cool. Mother Nature is always at its best. She is green and polite, gentle and kind to all creatures on earth. Darkening Mother Nature's green dress and testing her patience is a risk to face nature's law. We are all born nature lovers, inspired by its beauty and grace. But our demands and selfish acts are key to degrading it. It's immoral to mismanage its young ones, the water and environment. With the undeniable evidence, water and environment resources are key to climate resilient development. Our SDGs and NDP targets, our efforts to end poverty, all rely on water and environment resources. Oh, Mother Nature, what shall we give to appreciate? My heart beats like a jungle drum to awaken my soul as a call to preserve, conserve, and restore our water and environment for climate resilient development. Fellow Ugandans, what does water and environment mean to you? For God and my country. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development. In the extreme weather conditions, I'm worried about tomorrow. Our future generations, they're gonna live in the world of sorrow. Our demands are so high, the environment also needs us. What does water mean to you? And what does the environment mean to you? Let us love them for a better Uganda. Oh, water and environment. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development, water and environment. For climate resilient development. Our actions are future, I know you won't need them, better regard them. Yeah, but the world will never see again. You'll never see it again. And who is to blame? It's me and you. Let's preserve the environment. Let's preserve. See it again. And who is to blame? It's me and you. Let's preserve the environment. Let's preserve the water and environment. Water and environment. For climate resilient development. Water and environment. For climate resilient development. Water and environment. Water and environment. Water and environment. Oh, for climate resilient development. And the forest says, look at me. It will shine on you, cause I help you make the rain that you love so much. And the river says, don't build in my way, I'll flood on you. It's my right to stay, cause I was there before you came. And the swamp says, don't build in my way,
I'm a food harvest. It's my right to stay. Cause I was there before you came. Water and environment for climate resilient development. 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 Water and environment for climate resilient development.
There is a last part that I want to emphasize. The sound, but it's okay. It says, and the river says, don't build in my way. I'll flood on you, cause I was there before you came. And it's my right to stay. And the forest says, don't cut me down, cause I help you make the rain that you love so much. And the swamp says, don't build in my way. I'm a food haven. I was there before you came, and it's my right to stay. And the river says, don't build in my way. I'll flood on you, cause I was there before you came, and it's my right to stay. Thank you.
Anyone who still doubts the statements. Okay, I hope I didn't build in the forest. I didn't at all. Not definitely the kind. If you want to doubt that statement, you go and build in the wetland when it is a dry season and you wait for the rains to come. You'll tell us the story afterwards. Or if you want to, sadly, you need to have conversation with the persons who have houses just right next to Lake Victoria. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have a lot of time. Speaker is the Honorable Minister of Water and Environment. Bigger round of applause as we welcome Sam Cheptores to come and speak to us. I hope our technical team, I hope this is perfectly set as the minister comes to speak to us. We're good to go. Sam Cheptores, welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before I deliver my remarks, I want to thank the Archbishop. He really gave us another side of. I didn't know that to be a Christian you must protect the environment. Because he really gave another angle to the whole thing. When you say that God gave us this gift, He gave us a gift, He gave us this world, and what have we done about it? Instead of being grateful, somebody gives you a gift. Instead of being grateful, you start misusing, you start kicking the gift. I gave you a cow. Now what do? You start beating the cow, cutting it. Really, will I be happy? I'm not surprised that God is not happy with us. Really. He gave us a gift, very beautiful environment, gave us water, gave us mountains, gave us wetlands, gave us forests. And He expected us to even
look after his creation and even make it more beautiful. But what have we done to this creation? Will any of us go to heaven really? I really doubt now. I think you cannot call yourself a Christian or a religious person if you are destroying the environment. You are going to hell. And that is a fact. If you are destroying the environment, you are going to hell. Thank you very much, Archbishop. Well, thank you very, very much. And I think now I must prepare my way to go to heaven. The word of God, all other things, has told even homosexuality. You imagine, God created you to stay with a man. What do you do? With a woman, what do you do? We are sick. We are sick. Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Otala, the representative of the Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, is an eminence. The Metropolitan something Musei, co-chairperson of Uganda Joint Christian Council, and the Archbishop of Uganda Orthodox Church. Right Reverend Archbishop Constantine Bonabingi, Executive Secretary, Uganda Joint Christian Council. My ministers are not around. The Minister of Environment and the Bulungu Bwansi, Buganda Kingdom, thank you very much for joining us. Members of Parliament, my friend Silas Agon is around. Are there any other members of Parliament present? The United Nations Resident Coordinator, UNDP Resident Representative, Head of Mission Austrian Development Corporation in Uganda. The Mayor of Nakawa is here around? I don't think so. Representatives of various development partners, representatives of private sector and civil society organizations, the youth and the children, representatives of other stakeholders, government officials in your respective capacities, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you to the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week 2023. I wish to welcome our guest, the representative of the Right Honourable Speaker, who has agreed to our invitation to officiate at the opening of this Uganda Water and Environment Week 2023. We thank you for sparing your time to come and open this ceremony. This is a demonstration of the importance you attach to matters of water, environment, and the climate in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, this is the 6th time the such an event is being organized in Uganda. The first one was in 2018. We have learned a lot from the experiences of the last 5 Uganda Water and Environment Weeks. As always, we shall continue to address any shortfalls during the hosting of this week-long event, since the Water and Environment Week is a normal event. Is an annual event. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the various organizations, agencies, and partners that have worked tirelessly with my ministry to ensure that this event takes place. These include, among others, GIZ, Water Aid Uganda, WWF, UNDP, Austria Development Agency, IRC, Water for People, IUCN, Aid Environment, Oxfam, Climate Change Network, Workers Association of Uganda, Uganda Joint Christian Council, Uganda Kingdom, among others. Your contributions are much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, as you have been told, the theme of the Water and Environment Week is Water and Environment for Climate Resilient Development. This will be discussed under 4 sub-themes, namely A, policy, legal, and institutional frameworks for climate resilient development. B, climate resilient communities, ecosystems, and infrastructure. C, capacity and the partnerships for climate resilient development. And D, innovative financing mechanism. Our guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, the Uganda Water and Environment Week is linked to Uganda National Development Strategy and the National Development Plan 3, achievement of the middle income status, sustainable development goals, and the parish development model. Ladies and gentlemen, water and environment resources are vital resources for sustaining life, promoting development, and maintaining the environment. Water is a key input in most of our socio-economic development processes, and there are no activities that can be undertaken where water is not involved. Access to clean and safe water and improved sanitation facilities and practices are a prerequisite to a healthy population, and therefore have a direct impact on the quality of life and the productivity of the population. Besides domestic water supply, water is vital in key social development pillars. Water is key for livestock, for industry, for hydropower generation, for agriculture, in oil and gas mining, marine transport, fisheries, tourism, recreation, climate regulation, and environmental conservation, among others. So water really plays a very, very key role in the development of a country. Water and environment, therefore, significantly contribute to the national socio-economic development. However, these resources are under increasing pressure from many factors, among which is climate change. We therefore need to ensure that these resources are sustainably managed and developed if our development is to be climate resilient. I do hope that all these issues will form the basis of the discussions during this whole week. Our guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, you have already been informed the Water and Environment Week comprises a number of build-up activities, such as 1, the 320-kilometer walk for water and environment for climate resilient development. That started from Kingfisher Development Area in Kivu District on 28 February and ended at the Ministry of Water and Environment headquarters yesterday. I was privileged to receive the workers who trekked 320 kilometers for the cause of water and the environment. We also have regional activities in 6 regional centers of the Ministry of Water and Environment. There was a cleanup exercise in Kampala that was held on, was it yesterday or Friday? Today is what? Oh, today is Sunday. I should have remembered when when the Archbishop was preaching, I should have remembered this Sunday. So, we carried out the cleaning exercise in and around Luzira area. That was very, very successful. And today, as you have seen, we are formally opening the week. And these activities are going to continue up the whole of this week, the whole of this week. As a ministry, this event provides a unique opportunity to all our stakeholders to contribute new ideas, new knowledge, that are key in moving and our environmental agenda forward. I wish therefore to call upon you to actively participate in various activities and benefit from a wealth of knowledge and experience present here. We are going to have professionals discussing issues of water and environment, and I would really urge you to be present to listen to some of this wisdom. Like today, I was very privileged to listen to the Archbishop, and I think it is going to be a turning point in my life. I'm now going to be a very good Christian, protecting the environment, protecting water, even after I've left the government. I want to assure you all of my ministry's commitment to move forward the deliberations and the recommendations of the Water and Environment Week, so that we can improve the water and environment sector, as well as accelerating Uganda's achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and National Development Plan 3 targets. Thank you for coming to attend this function. I really thank you very much. Today is a Sunday for somebody to set aside other activities and come on a Sunday to be with us is really a sacrifice. And I want to thank you very much for coming to join us. It is now my singular honor and privilege to invite my friend, where is my chairman of Natural Resources, the Committee of Natural Resources of Parliament. If I don't handle him well, I will be in trouble in the Parliament. So, other man is very useful to me. So I would like now to take this honor to invite Honorable Dr. Otala to deliver the message of the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament and to formally open the Uganda Water and Environment Week 2023 for God and my country.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of Water and Environment, Honorable Sam Cheptoris, Your Eminence, the Archbishop of Uganda Orthodox Church and co-chair of Uganda Joint Christian Council, Hieronymus Musei, the Honorable Minister of Environment and the Bulungu Bwansi of the Uganda Kingdom, the Executive Secretary, Uganda Joint Christian Council, Honorable Members of Parliament, and I would like specifically to recognize the Honorable Cyrus Augon, who is also the chairperson of the WASH Forum in Parliament. Your Excellency, the Head of Mission, Austrian Development Agency, Your Excellency, the United Resident Coordinator, Your Excellency, the UNDP Resident Representative in Uganda, representatives of various development here today, representatives of the private sector and civil society organizations, representatives of other stakeholders present here today, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Water and Environment, and all the other technical staff present, the media, the artists, and all of you distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I've been introduced. My name is Dr. Emmanuel Otala. I am the Member of Parliament representing West Budama South constituency in Itoro district, and I also chair the Parliamentary Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. I am here to represent the Right Honorable Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, Right Honorable Anita Annette Among. But before I deliver her speech, I would like to make my own remarks as someone who oversees the environment and natural resources sector. And I want to begin by applauding the Honorable Minister and your technical team, particularly the organizing committee, for bringing together various stakeholders who are keenly interested in matters of environment. I want to say that one very important occasion that brings this ministry to the limelight as a champion of the provision of a very important resource to all of us, but also as a champion for protection of our environment. So, the Honorable Minister, I want to may I also quickly applaud all of you for coming here today, especially being a Sunday. This is something that we cannot take for granted. It is clearly a demonstration of the great and keen interest that each one of you has in protecting our water and making the best use of it, as well as conservation of our environment. So I want to thank you together, but also individually. The Uganda Water and Environment Week brings together various partners. And I believe the knowledge sharing that we shall have throughout the week will go a long way in enhancing our understanding of the importance of water and environment, but also to enable us chart a way forward on what we need to do to ensure universal access to water, but also what we need to do to balance development and the use of our environment. Similarly, I want to applaud His Eminence, the Metropolitan Archbishop of the Orthodox Church in Uganda, for being a champion of environmental protection. This is not the first time I'm seeing him on such an occasion. You have always been there as a champion for the provision of safe and clean water to the citizens of this country, as well as a champion for the protection of our environment. So I thank you, and I am equally enthused by the biblical background that you have brought forward today, that God gave us a gift called environment and water, and God expects us to make the best use of these gifts, that we should not begin kicking and cutting down the gift from God. So I want to applaud you for bringing this dimension to our understanding of what we need to do in our environment. The importance of conserving our environment for ourselves and for posterity cannot be overemphasized. And I believe, as you rightly put it, Your Eminence, we must do this for the glory of God. Those who coined the adage that water is life, environment is health, were not further from the truth. They were actually spot on. And these two core principles should guide whatever activities we undertake. Just imagine if there is no water in this facility. I think the first directive from the PS would be, all of you don't come to work tomorrow. That shows you the importance of water in our day-to-day lives. I remember when I was studying biology at high school, our biology textbook had a small statement that even the Archbishop of Canterbury is 70% water. And that shows you how, I don't know why they did not say that even His Eminence, the Metropolitan, but they chose the Archbishop of Canterbury. But that shows you how important water is to our day-to-day lives. And the artist who sang here was spot on. She summarized it so aptly. If you can recall what happened in Mbale recently, the floods came because we, in our wisdom as government, decided to put a facility, an industrial park, in a wetland. In our wisdom, that's where we put it, in a wetland. Championing development. And you saw, when water came, it said, no, it's my right to pass here. And I'm going to pass here, whether you like it or not. And that is an eye-opener to all of us. That is an eye-opener that if we don't redress these mistakes that we have made, then something else is going to happen more catastrophic than what we witnessed in Bali. Yes, so we must address this. Finally, as I come to the end of my remarks, I want to underscore the importance of the enormous support that we have received over the years from our development partners. We thank you. Particularly, I want to underscore and applaud the Austrian Development Agency for the support and the keen interest you have in conserving our environment. You've always been there for us. Similarly, other partners have been there for us to support us in the health sector and indeed in all the other sectors in Uganda. We thank you. My last point before I go to the Right Honourable Speaker's speech is to underscore the importance of balancing population growth and investment. All of you are aware that the population of Uganda is one of the fastest growing in the whole world, at a rate of about 0.2 to 3.5% per annum. This rate of population growth is outstripping the investment that we are putting in the water and environment sector. And for as long as we continue in this trend, we are not going to achieve environmental conservation. We are not going to achieve universal access to clean and safe water for everybody. This is an area that even touches on religious principles, and I call upon Your Eminence to speak out on this matter. Of course, the Christian Church upholds the right for us to produce and fill the world. That is what God commanded us. But we ourselves, we must be cautious and see that we are able to balance the population growth rate and the investment that we have. Short of that, we are going to get into trouble. This is an aspect that not many people can stand up and talk about openly. Maybe my bishop will call me and say, what were you saying today about population? Allow the people to procreate the way God created them. I am not against that natural process. But our mothers and parents did it. How did they balance? How were they spacing? Without the use of contraceptives, without other bad methods. So with that, allow me now to go to the Right Honourable Speaker's speech. And the protocol that I have already addressed is her own. So allow me go direct to the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to take this opportunity to address you during the opening of the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week. I wish to congratulate the Ministry of Water and Environment and its various partners for organizing the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week and for bringing together the key stakeholders to dialogue on issues affecting the sector and Uganda in general. I am happy to note that you have maintained the annual celebrations as a way of providing an opportunity to stakeholders to share knowledge, exchange ideas, dialogue, and learn from each other on issues related to the sustainable development and management of water and environment resources. Ladies and gentlemen, water and environment resources are key strategic resources and are at the core of sustainable socio-economic development, healthy ecosystems, and for human survival. These resources are critical in ensuring climate-resilient development and hence the achievement of the NDP 3 goal and targets. Water is particularly central to agriculture, the mainstay of Uganda's economy, from which about 85% of the population derives their incomes and livelihoods. Provision of adequate water for agriculture will spur transformation of the economy through increased productivity for both livestock and crops. I am, however, told that there is low productivity and low profitability of Uganda's agriculture due to, among others, lack of access to water resources. Agriculture in Uganda is almost completely dependent on rain due to limited irrigation, thus making the farmers highly vulnerable to increasingly unpredictable rainfall patterns. Approximately 15,000 hectares, which is less than 3% of potential irrigable area, has been developed under formal irrigation system, and almost 87% of the total reported losses caused by floods or droughts are from agriculture only. There is, therefore, no doubt that against growing threats of climate change and associated negative impacts to Ugandan economy, climate resilience irrigation schemes will be able to provide reliable and sustainable water solutions for Ugandan farmers and contribute to enhance agricultural productivity, improve food security, alleviate rural poverty levels, create local job opportunities, and achieve sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Water, therefore, must be available in adequate quantities and corresponding quality at the right time and right place in order to contribute to the achievement of the development goal of increasing household incomes and improving the quality of life of the population. Ladies and gentlemen, access to safe water and sanitation is a human right. Currently, access to safe water in rural and urban areas stands at 69% and 72% respectively, while access to basic sanitation in rural and urban areas is at 78% and 89% respectively. Low access to water and sanitation services has brought inequality in service delivery. Limited access to safe water, sanitation and hygiene wash therefore remains a major hindrance to sustainable development. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, availability of sustainable water, sanitation and hygiene services is essential to quality of care and infection prevention and control in healthcare facilities and in communities. The linkage between safe water for hygiene and hand washing in health facilities and reduction in disease transmission has long been established. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, Sustainable Development Goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being, and Sustainable Development Goal number 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, reinforce the need to ensure safe management of water and sanitation, reduction in maternal mortality, ending preventable newborn deaths, and providing quality universal health coverage. Ladies and gentlemen, while Uganda is still recognized as the Pearl of Africa with very good sceneries, there is an ever-increasing threat to its natural resources base, especially forests and wetlands. And indeed, other speakers before me have already alluded to this. I have been told that the forest cover has declined from 24% of Uganda's total land area in 1990 to 12.4% currently. This is majorly attributed to biomass fuel, cooking, combustion with other auxiliary drivers such as expansion of agricultural land, sporadic urbanization, and income poverty, industrialization, and inadequate incentives for private plantation forests. About 90% of Ugandans use firewood and charcoal for cooking. Other challenges, ladies and gentlemen, include encroachment on forests and wetlands, illegal harvesting, and tilling. Similarly, the national wetlands coverage as a percentage of the total land area declined from 15.6% in 1994 to 8.9% currently. It is estimated that Uganda loses 846 square kilometers of its wetlands annually. And this is outrageous. We can't keep that pace going, and we still think that we are not going to turn this country into a desert. The major causes of wetland degradation are poor farming practices, unplanned urbanization and settlements, excessive water abstraction, poverty, poor intra and intersectoral coordination with regards to continued issuance of land titles in wetlands, sand mining and industrialization within some of the demarcated business or industrial parks located in wetlands. As Parliament, we were happy to welcome the workers that have undertaken a 320-kilometer walk from Kingfisher Development Area in Chikube to the Ministry of Water and Environment headquarters. Although I was not there personally to welcome the workers, I was ably represented by a number of members of Parliament who received them and also received a statement from the workers on my behalf. My representatives informed me that the workers passed through various places and made several stopovers to undertake several activities that included tree planting, cleanup exercises on our environment, hand washing demonstration, etc., etc. They also interfaced with local leaders, stakeholders, schools and communities, among others, and compile a list of issues that are pertinent to the people along their route. Some of the issues reported by the workers include environmental degradation that all of you know very well about, going on across the country, high influx of refugees, and that adds to our population pressure, wildfires and rampant bush burning, poor waste disposal. You all witness this in Kampala all the time. That's why we are not a very clean city compared to others. Poor sanitation, deforestation, water stress, poor quality of water, drought, and inadequate water supply. The workers made a number of recommendations that included the following. 1. Restoration of Bugoma Central Forest Reserve, Bohokwa Landscape, River Simu and River Nguse should be undertaken and further degradation stopped. 2, that we need to enact and enforce laws to regulate bush burning by the farmers. 3, that provision of garbage disposal kits for urban authorities to improve on the disposal of waste should be addressed urgently. Government should also enact laws that enable the people participate in cleanup exercises, commonly known as Bulungu Bwansi. Mama, Honorable Minister, we thank you and we thank the Buganda government for being a champion in this cause. Under this program, the people clean their own areas at least once every month. This should be something to be undertaken on a routine basis. 4, development of a waste management plan to handle the bulk of waste produced by the growing urban centers. 5, review and update the water and environment laws to stop or reduce the degradation of water bodies, wetlands, and forests. 6, there is an urgent need to improve on the institutional coordination between the ministries, departments, and agencies to improve on the governance of our water and environment resources. 7, government should increase on the budget allocations to the water and environment sector, including the line authorities and the district local governments, to enable them enforce the law, improve the safe or clean water supply to communities, as well as improve sanitation. 8, government should subsidize the cost of renewable energy alternatives like liquefied petroleum gas for cooking, solar energy, and electricity to save the environment, since most of our people rely on biomass sources of energy for cooking. The government should provide mini irrigation systems to the people so that they are able to grow more food and also to move out of the wetlands. Finally, that the government should extend piped water to all villages within the urban authorities, including Mityana South constituency. I think as they pass there, this is one of the most water-stressed areas they pass through. So, Honorable Minister, this is within your docket, and I hope you will be able to address this emergency. As I come to the end, I wish to applaud the workers for their resilience along this long walk and for identifying these issues and proposing recommendations to address them. I am happy that the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Water and Environment, in collaboration with development partners and the private sector, is addressing a number of these issues amidst the limited resources that we face. As Parliament, we have done our best to put in place enabling environmental laws. But we feel hurt when these laws are not implemented. Uganda is not short of good policies. Uganda is not short of good laws. Our challenge, like many people always laugh at us, Ugandans make very good policies. Other countries come and benchmark from us. They take it to their countries and they do better. And ours are shelved. This must change. And together we can change it. However, in case there are any gaps in existing laws, feel free to approach us and we shall address these gaps. Despite the above, we shall do what it takes to ensure that appropriate laws are put in place to protect water and environment resources, and that reasonable funds are appropriated to enable the water and environment sector at national, regional, and local levels to perform its functions. I wish to assure you of my personal commitment to support the water and environment sector in this regard. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week is Water and Environment for Climate Resilient Development. This theme comes at the right time when the country is just recovering from key water-related challenges, such as rising water levels, flooding, and job loss. I therefore request all the participants of this 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week to critically discuss how water and environment can be sustainably developed and managed for climate resilience development in our country. I hope that the outcomes of this 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week will make significant contributions that will enable Uganda achieve the National Development Plan 3 goals and targets. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I wish to thank all the partner organizations and development partners that have continued to support the water and environment sector to deliver water and environment services in the country. I didn't know that on Sundays we are very mean. Why are we so mean when we are appreciating our partners who have done a lot for us? I request you to continue providing such support so that this critical sector of government can perform its key functions. I therefore wish you all very fruitful deliberations during this week. It's now my singular honor, pleasure, and privilege to formally declare the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week formally open. I thank you all for God and my country. That is the speech of the Right Honorable Anita Annette Among, MP, Bukedea District, Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda. And she has been here with you in spirit through me. Thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Tim Emmanuel Otala, in this space representing the Right Honorable Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, but he's also the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Thank you so much for making your time, and you did ably represent the Speaker of the Parliament. Just before we get to have and listen to our keynote speaker, allow me just ask all the walkers to stand up. 320 kilometers is no mean feat. So to all the walkers, yes, right over there, a round of applause. Yeah, all over, look there, look at all the corners. One would ask, I know Morris would be asking how long it took you to prepare to be able to walk, but thank you so much for representing and for the ideas that you brought forward that need to be handled. I think those are very, very welcome ideas. Now, with no much more time wasted, allow me invite our keynote speaker, who is the Executive Director of the International Water Association. Professor Kala is also an internationally recognized water resource management expert with particular expertise in urban water issues. Remember, the the Right Honorable Speaker in the capacity was speaking about the access to safe water, the percentages, where the disparities were high, but also that percentage still being very low. And also Professor Kala combines a strong engineering background with practical international experience. A huge CV, but because of time, I will not have to explain it all. Ladies and gentlemen, from online, allow me invite Professor Kala to speak to us. Professor, thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Hi, can you hear me okay in Uganda? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Professor, we hear you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. It's really a great pleasure for me to be part of the 6th Uganda Water and Environment Week that has a focus on water and environment for climate resilient development. We at IWA are very happy to participate in this important conference, and I would like to begin by thanking all my friends and colleagues in Uganda for their kind invitation. In particular, I would like to thank Alice, a good and old friend of mine who has been an inspiration to me for many years as I've been working in the water sector. So thank you very much, Alice, for the invitation. I'd like to begin my presentation by talking about a dichotomy or a contradiction. We know that water does exist as a priority in many agendas. We are all aware of the SDGs and its dedicated goal for water and sanitation. And as many of you will know, we have our big meeting next week at the UN headquarters in New York to discuss progress with respect to the SDGs. The SDGs deal with water and sanitation in a comprehensive manner, in that its scope includes wastewater management, water use efficiency, and integrated water resource management, which I think is an important part of this conference. When we think about climate change, we often say that water is the medium through which we feel the effects of climate change. I've often heard it described that if climate change is the shark, then water is the teeth of that shark. So as they say, the climate crisis is a water crisis, and it's the water sector that's the primary victim in bearing the impacts. The IPCC's recent reports clearly stress the importance of water and adaptation, and highlights that climate change is intensifying the water cycle. And this is bringing on more intense rainfall and associated flooding, as well as more intense droughts. So water is really big on the climate agenda. And then if we look at the Global Risk Report published by the World Economic Forum, water risk was recognized for nearly 9 years as one of the top 5 risks to the global economy, although this has recently dropped down because of the pandemic. So clearly the private sector recognizes the importance of water. Historic droughts, more pronounced extreme weather, escalating water competition, all making water a material financial risk. But here's the dichotomy. Why is water not a higher priority? With all this attention on the importance of water, why is it not happening? But the thing is, it is happening, but not in the right sequence. You see, there's always a very swift and vocal response post a disaster, and you see this happening always after a flood and a drought. As Harold Macmillan once said, it's events, my dear boy, it's events. So what we need to do as a sector is to reverse the sequence. We need to move away from this sort of prevention. We need to reverse the sequence so that the political interest and motivation leads to prevention and cure, and not, as is currently the case, to rescue and recovery, which is always more expensive and doesn't give you a decent political platform. You see, good water is good politics. If you get your water policy right, you get re-elected. And this is what people like Lee Kuan Yew saw. And he did that in Singapore. He gave a lot of importance to water because he knew it was politically important. With business, they clearly recognize the importance of water security and water resilience. But the big problem is that the public service instruments are struggling to give us water security, both in terms of water quantity and quality. So what do we need to do? We need to better articulate the value of water, its many dimensions, coupled with a strong evidence base of the magnitude of its true value. You see, water is the journey and not the destination. It's a journey to a wonderful place, a place where people are healthy, productive, and live in beautiful spaces and live in harmony with nature. If you like, water is a journey to happiness and well-being. So we as a sector need to do better to communicate the true value of water. And to do this, we need policy instruments that can better articulate the great value. And if we do this well, we can help stimulate interest and investments. We need to think about it like this. It's not that I need money for water, but that I can take money out of water if I manage it well. Although Africa only contributes to about 4% of greenhouse gas emissions, it is a continent that's disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. You can see some of the data on the slide that I'm showing. It's been reported that 4 out of 5 countries will have an unsustainable water resource situation in Africa by 2030. And if you already look in Africa now, we're already seeing some of the impacts of climate change. Africa has faced floods in South Sudan, Nigeria, the DRC and Burundi. We see droughts in the Sahel, in East Africa and Madagascar, heat waves and wildfires in Libya, Morocco, Tunisia and Algeria. So the continent faces multiple stresses, and sometimes these happen simultaneously or in quick succession. And it's also unfortunate that the countries that need to adapt the most because their exposure is high often lack the means to do so, because they lack the financing and institutional capacity. If you look at this slide, it shows you that the low-income countries have the highest exposure, which is on the x-axis, but they are also those countries who have the least ability to adapt to some of these changes. And there's the paradox. You see, low-income countries that have contributed the least to climate change will suffer the most devastating impacts of climate change. And Africa is one of the most vulnerable continents to climate change and climate variability, and it too has a very low capacity to adapt. Water resilience is now big on many agendas, including the climate agenda, and this is why I think this conference is very important. There are many definitions out there for resilience, and most say almost the same thing, so I try to keep it very simple here. For me, there are some key elements to this idea of resiliency. First, it's about weathering and recovery, right? This ability to absorb disturbances while retaining the same basic structure and the ways of functioning. The other component is this idea of adaptive capacity to deal with the inherent uncertainties associated with climate change and other change pressures. So there are these two elements. And as I said, water resilience is now very big on many agendas. And in Africa, for example, you have the Green Stimulus Program and the Agenda 2063, both of which have water security and water resilience as priority areas. All of these are good vehicles for water to hitch its wagon to. So as a sector, we need to be opportunistic and capitalize on these topical agendas. The climate agenda is a big policy target, and the post-pandemic Build Back Better narrative is providing us with a great vehicle. So there is a big call to action, and we have to do some serious path shifting now. You see, water was historically a building block of the high carbon economy. But now there's a real opportunity for us to be the building block for the new low carbon economy. And it's the global south that is the key. You see, adversity is a very big part of the challenge. In the global north, we're fine-tuning systems because we have universal access and a good capacity to adapt. But in the global south, we don't. And so there's this very important equation. On the one side, you have this huge need for new infrastructure and services that could be carbon intensive and not resilient. And on the other side, you have this window of opportunity to do things differently. Energy neutral, efficient and productive use of water, where we maximize the capture of value from our water and waste streams. We can be resilient by design. You know, Africa leapfrogged fixed wires of communication infrastructure, so they can also avoid the slow, costly, mechanistic, and heavy legacy of centralized water systems by moving to off-grid, distributed, flexible, and circular systems. So I see huge opportunities to raise water resiliency on all the agendas and not just the development agenda. I think what is critical in moving towards a water-resilient future is to have a systems perspective. When we're dealing with water, we are dealing with a system of systems of systems. And I like to think about it as birds flying at different altitudes. Our water supply is a system. Our wastewater treatment systems are a system. And our stormwater management is a system. Viewing these as individual systems, you could say it's the sparrow's view that flies at a relatively low altitude, where each component of the urban water system is viewed individually. Together, these systems make up what we would call an integrated urban water system. Another system, we're flying at a slightly higher altitude at the albatross's view, where all the components of the water system, the urban water system, are viewed as one. And then if we fly a little higher to a higher altitude, we realize that the city sits within a watershed where we need to understand the flows that take place at the boundaries between the different competing water use sectors. We have water for the city, we have water for food production or the agricultural sector, we have water for industry, we have water to feed the ecosystems. And so we have this watershed systems view, which is really the eagle's view. We're flying at a very high altitude. So we are talking about a system of systems. Now, key to this, so if we look at, say, for example, the albatross view, where we look at the entire urban water system, key to this is we need to change our perspective, and we need to start thinking about the productive use of water. What is it we want the water to do for us? And how can we match the quantity and the quality of the water to that intended use? We don't need to use drinking water for everything. So when we start looking at the urban water system in its entirety, and we start to look at all the flows of water within that system, we realize that all these water flows are good water. They are just waters of different grades. And what we can do is by looking at these different flows of water, we can sort of respond to any growing demands of water. So for example, if we need water for drinking because we have a growing population, we can either choose to move large quantities of surface water from afar to the city, or we can invest in leakage management and demand management, which free up high quality drinking water. If we want to water our plants or wash our streets, we can extract water from afar and bring it to the city, or we can reuse our grey water and black water for those purposes. So when we have this sort of albatross view, we can start to look at efficiency gains from within the system rather than always depending on building new infrastructure. Now, critical to this is integrated urban water modeling, where we model flows across the urban water system and contaminant fluxes, and we can then match these different grades of water for different uses. And there's a lot of innovation in this space where we're starting to model parcels of water and we give them a digital signature where we know the quantity of water, how much energy was expended in producing that water, and the quality of the water. And then it allows us to connect these different flows to different uses so we can reduce our overall water footprint. Now, we did some work some time ago in Nairobi where we looked at the growing demand for water. And our natural response, or the natural response of the government there, was to build large infrastructure works to move water from afar. So new surface water sources that would bring water to the city. But doing this type of integrated urban water modeling, we found that there was plenty of water within the system that could be freed up, that could be used to meet this growing demand without building new infrastructure. And we could do this at a lower cost than if we were to build new source works to bring water from afar. So that's the beauty of this sort of, albatross view of your system. And this has been published in a book that can be downloaded on the internet, published by the World Bank. This idea of this albatross view has led to people starting to think about a portfolio of options. They recognize to improve their water resiliency, they have to start to diversify their water sources and not depend on single water sources for their survival or for their resilience. And you're seeing it, Singapore is the classic example of where they did this, but you're seeing this in a lot of developing countries now. So Chennai in India, a very densely populated area, always dealing with water scarcity, has created this portfolio of solutions. Some of them are very obvious, so surface and groundwater desalination, but also investing in demand management, rainwater harvesting, the reuse of wastewater, and also more exotic uses, like using, depressions in quarries and lakes where they can bring that water to the city to meet this growing demand. And this sort of minimizes their risk of not having water if one of their sources fail. One of the key areas that you see a lot of interest in the Global South is in the reuse of wastewater. And this, for me, I think is the big game changer in most of the developing world moving forward. For me, wastewater is really the key because it contributes to all the key agendas that we have. And it's critical for both water resiliency and water security. But there's a problem. You see, in most of the world, almost 80% of our wastewater is not treated. And of course, this leads to serious public health problems. It leads to environmental degradation, and it damages our water sources that we depend on. And ultimately, it really sort of infringes people's human rights. For example, if you take Dhaka in Bangladesh, a city of nearly 15 million people that generates about 2 million cubic meters of wastewater per day, only 2% of that wastewater is treated. Now, we have made attempts to try and treat our wastewater. We have built wastewater treatment plants. Now, this is a study that was done in the last organization I worked for, EMI, where this is a graph that shows you the wastewater treatment works that were built in Ghana. And I would just ask you to keep your eye on the slide, right? So you're seeing the wastewater treatment plants that were built. But now look, these are the treatment plants that are actually functioning. Right? So we built a lot of plants, but a lot of them are not functioning. So if we're totally honest with ourselves, we haven't done very well. And we need to ask why, and we need to learn from our mistakes. I can show you similar slides from India and from other parts of the global south. And it's very, it's very common to see a lot of plants being built and then not functioning. You see, these systems were not well engineered from the beginning for the local context. And they have high capex costs and high opex costs, and they have very low cost recovery rates. This lack of cost recovery means that utilities tend to reduce costs where they can, and most notably, this is in savings on maintenance. And this results in deteriorating treatment, shortened lifespans of the facilities, and finally, they fall into disuse. This is the complete opposite of resilient infrastructure. It's unacceptable when you think about how much money has been wasted in building these plants. But attitudes are changing. In the global south, there's growing interest in wastewater as it's being viewed as a potential water source that can provide greater water security and resilience. And there is a great anticipation that recovering value from our waste streams will be the panacea, the cure that can potentially generate money to make our systems more financially sustainable. And at IWA, where I work, we truly believe that the next 20 years will be the golden age for wastewater and sanitation. Many countries in the global south are on the cusp of investing large amounts of money to address this issue. And these countries have the advantage of being able to build on the experiences of the global north. You see, in the global north, the last 70 years was like one big pilot study. They started with very large, inefficient, clunky systems that they improved incrementally. And so now they're slowly coming to systems that are more elegant and efficient. The innovations that you see in the area of wastewater is really around changing the physics of processes. And you see innovations in things like granular sludge, anammox, thermal hydrolysis. And all of this means that the emerging economies in the global south can design more efficient systems that have smaller plant footprints with lower capex and opex. So countries in the global south are really in a strong position as they are wastewater, sanitation, journals, at the time technologies are converging. So as I said, at IWA, we believe the next 20 years will be the golden age for wastewater. And it's great to see that most of this innovation and implementation is being contextualized within the circular economy narrative. This idea of trying to utilize water multiple times and recover value from the waste streams. At the COP26 in Glasgow, where I was present, the city commissioner from Surat in India stated that his city is nearly earning $18 million a year from selling 115 megalitres per day of secondary treated wastewater. Some time ago, I chaired an event to launch the World Bank's WISER initiative, and we had the Minister for Water from Senegal give us concrete examples from Dakar, where wastewater reuse was feeding industry and agriculture, and biogas production was being used by the plant to run its operations. And they were selling about 3 MLD of treated sewage to private companies and market gardeners. They also sold their stabilized sludge for soil enhancement. Also at this meeting, Colombia presented their new water policy that had the circular economy at the center. So things are really moving fast and in an exciting and wonderful way. But it's not just about green nature-based solutions are also very powerful in helping us close the loop. If you look at this diagram, we can use vegetation to protect our water sources by filtering runoff, something we call ecohydrology. So you use vegetation, so as the water runs off from the soil, it gets treated and filtered, so our water bodies are protected. When we want to extract drinking water, we can use nature-based solutions like riverbank filtration and lake bank filtration to treat that water before it goes into supply. And once we've used that water, we can use natural systems to treat that wastewater through things like constructed wetlands, stabilization ponds, and then we can polish that water through soil aquifer treatment, for example, before it goes into reuse. So the entire loop can be managed with nature-based solutions. Now, these systems have much larger physical footprints. They need a lot of land, but they have much lower energy footprints. And so I think the future will be a combination of grey and green infrastructure, sort of a hybrid solution, but a lot of potential in this area. And here you can see some good examples from Africa where a lot of natural systems are already being deployed. However, I want to point out that nature-based solution interventions are a little bit tricky because we don't have enough data. We need to improve the availability of ex-post evaluations so that we can shed more light on their effectiveness and efficiency, and also their environmental, socio-economic, and financial sustainability. All of this is really critical for their long-term success and sustainability. You see, nature-based solutions are deployed under various contexts, and it's only a careful understanding of the solution, right from the process at work, the hydrological significance, and understanding the various flows and fluxes, can we then deploy them in an effective way. And so we need better research to understand what really takes place with these systems. Now, if we move to the eagle's view, right, this is where we're looking at the entire watershed. The problem we have here is that each of the subsectors, say, for example, the city, the agricultural water sector, we are all sort of optimizing our own systems individually. So we're sort of doing subsystem optimization. But one thing we don't realize is the synergies that are there between these different sectors. Each sector can potentially support and improve the efficiencies of the other sector. So agricultural efficiencies will release a lot of water that allows us to use that water to feed the city. The city's wastewater, which is very nutrient rich, can be very valuable for agricultural production. If we co-digest our agro-industrial waste with our city waste, we can generate large amounts of energy that will offset some of the energy we might need from the energy supplies. And of course, efficient water use helps keep the ecosystems alive. So we need to have a much more sort of systemic view of the watershed. We need to have a much more integrated approach, and we need to better articulate some of these synergies or transfer of benefits that occur between these different sectors. This is really not happening at the moment, and it's really a governance issue that we need to deal with, because really your big wins, your biggest bang for your buck comes from when you have this sort of eagle's view of your watershed. I want to talk a little bit about uncertainties. This discussion in this meeting you're having is about climate and about water resiliency. But we have to recognize that we are dealing with lots of uncertainties, right? We have uncertainties in terms of the climate. We have uncertainties in terms of population dynamics, the rate of urbanization. We know that populations in the global south are not only growing in cities, but they're growing up. Their lifestyles are changing, so the demand for certain resources is also increasing. We have uncertainty in terms of the political scenario, the geopolitical situation, which might affect energy supplies, might affect food supplies, like we see now as a result of the Ukraine war. We have a very little understanding of our underground infrastructure, and they are deteriorating. So there's lots of uncertainties around how those systems will perform. If you just take climate, for example, right, there's a process that we take information to predict what impacts happen to water as a result of climate. So we first have to sort of think, how will society behave? We have to think about how society will behave in the future. That then feeds our greenhouse gas emissions. Those greenhouse gas emissions then go into a whole plethora of GCM models, which all have different ideas behind them. So they generate different outcomes. We then downscale these models into regional models. And then finally, from those downscaled models, we have the atmospheric variables that then feed into our hydrological models. And those also have huge uncertainties associated with them. It's those hydrological models that then feed our water resource models, which finally tell us what the water situation might be in a location. So this process has uncertainties at every level, and the uncertainties get amplified. So we're really dealing with, what we would call cascading uncertainties. And It's a fact, and we have to deal with it. We still have to design infrastructure. We still have to keep building in response to this, but we have to do it understanding that there's lots of uncertainties. Now, I like to think of uncertainty as an envelope. Here you have predictions from different GCM models, and if you think about it, what it's doing is it's giving us an uncertainty envelope. Now, historically, what we would have done is we would have taken some point into the future and we would have just kept our eyes on that point in the future and designed our systems along that trajectory. That's what we would have done in the past. Let me just minimize this. That's what we would have done in the past. But now, because we recognize that the width of this uncertainty envelope is high, we're starting to think about how can we build our systems in much shorter increments. And at each stage of design, we create some capacity for the system to move in 2 or 3 different directions, right? And this is the way people are starting to think. So you don't lock yourself into one trajectory, but you build in stages. And at each stage, you have the ability to navigate or to span the spectrum of uncertainty. So you can really respond to some of the changes as they are happening over time. Now, key to this is sort of modular systems. And if you take, for example, urban drainage, there's a lot of work on nature-based solutions in urban drainage where we use green infrastructure to attenuate and to capture some of the stormwater that hits us. And these systems are really modular, right? They can be built in stages and they're not like building a sewer. So if you imagine you had a suite of these options, these different, what we would call sustainable urban drainage options, these green solutions, then as an area starts to urbanize over time, you can pick and choose which types of options you start to deploy. And you can sort of incrementally grow your stormwater solution. Rather than sort of building a big underground sort of sewer network, you can slowly grow and respond to some of those uncertainties that you have. And research that I did some time ago showed that these sort of green, sustainable urban drainage solutions actually are much better responding to a variety of scenarios compared to, say, traditional sewers. And they also outperform traditional sewers in relation to multiple objectives. So, of course, there's that hydraulic objective to sort of manage that excess water. But in terms of pollution control, in terms of amenity, these systems are much, much better. So this modular approach is quite interesting. And we see similar developments taking place in sanitation, right? Where people are moving to sort of more, if you like, decentralized sanitation, either sort of septic tank systems or DWAT systems, which are larger decentralized units. But this is where the movement of water is generally heavy, but you shorten the distances of carrying the waste to a location. And then if you want to reuse it, the distance that is required to move it back to reuse is smaller. But these decentralized systems also have this sort of adaptive capacity. So if you have an area that's growing, you might build one of these clusters for, say, a population of 20 to 30,000 inhabitants. But then as your area starts to grow, you can add modules one at a time. So your system starts to grow incrementally because it's decentralized. And it follows the pattern of growth. And it doesn't require you to anticipate that growth. Another one of the benefits of these decentralized systems is that they don't propagate errors, right? So if there's a flood or if there's a power outage, it doesn't get propagated through the entire system because it's not a centralized system. And you can make some of those failures relatively local. And so these systems have a high degree of resiliency. It's interesting that in Kampala, there's been a lot of work on using digital innovation to manage much better the decentralized sewer networks, right? These non-sewer sanitation approaches through having call centers that are linking directly with these sludges. So, septic tanks are being emptied more efficiently. The routes in which these truckers are going is optimized. So overall, you're starting to develop a more efficient system to deal with this. Now, it's not only new systems where you can think like this. You can also do it for existing systems. Now, in many developing countries, we were colonized and we had a sort of a central sort of sewer and water system in the central core of our city. And now our populations are starting to grow outside that central core. You find this very common in many Indian cities and also many African cities, that you'll have a small centralized sewer network, for example. And what we've tried to do is that as the city grows and we've got new demand, we try to extend our current infrastructure. And we find that we don't have sufficient resources, and the original infrastructure doesn't have sufficient carrying capacity, so the system doesn't function particularly well when we try to spread the network further. So in these areas, what's possible is to ring fence that historical central core. So let's say, for example, the historical sort of center sewer system, and let that function as it was. But for the new growing areas, you start to build more decentralized systems. And so you have a hybrid situation, right, where you have certain parts which have centralized network or a centralized system, and in other parts you have decentralized approaches. Now, when I was preparing for this presentation, I was remembering work that I had done maybe over 10 years ago in Uganda with the National Water and Sewage Corporation and also Makerere University. It was funded by the World Bank, where we were looking at two towns. And this is just, and it's reported in the book, and this is Arusha, and you can see the central core of Arusha, and you can see the city is spreading its infrastructure as the city is growing. So we did an analysis where we said, what if we were to ring fence that central core and build decentralized solutions on the outskirts? And we looked at some very innovative ways of extracting water from both groundwater and some surface water sources, using DWAT systems to treat some of that water and reuse some of that grey water. And we found that, it could work. It was quite an attractive solution. And when we compared the costs of extending the centralized system compared to having a decentralized system, and I think these average costs are based over a 25-year horizon, we found, and this was, just a study, I must hasten to add, we found that these decentralized systems could be more cost effective. And again, this has been reported in the book that we wrote on African cities. And this is for Arusha and Mbale. These were the two towns that we worked in. And you see very similar approaches in other parts of the world. These are very sort of poster sort of type systems that people talk about. Battery Park in New York, Hammarby Sostad in Sweden. These are sort of similar approaches where they haven't sort of been connected to the central core, but they have built sort of independent, decentralized systems on the outskirts. So you are seeing this evolving as an approach. The last thing that I wanted to touch upon is the idea of readiness. So with all this path shifting that we're seeing, right, this transitioning to this new normal, it's not easy. As I said, water is a system of systems of systems. And when you're dealing with integrated and circular systems, this is quite complex. To date, most of the presentation has been on the potential of technology to improve efficiency, to generate value from waste or resourcefulness, and to reduce emissions, right? So to support the low carbon agenda. However, if we are to really make progress, we need to understand and know the readiness of utilities to absorb these new approaches and techniques so that they can make the necessary transition. And this is definitely not just about technology. There are other issues of readiness that we have to be aware of. Now, technology readiness has been well established in Europe for over the last 10 years. And for those of you who don't know, we have a ladder of 9 evolutionary stages. One would be the idea for a new technology, right? And then 2, 3, and 4 will be university research, maybe some lab sort of scale work. And then 4, 5, 6, you start to develop pilot scale operations. And then 7, 8, 9 means that you're actually taking this innovation into sort of commercialization, right? So it starts to be used by people in the field. So that's this sort of scale of 1 to 9. So technology readiness has been around for some time. But as I said, water is special, right? It's a system of systems. And we are dealing with public health. And so it's important, particularly in the global south, that we understand and appreciate other forms of readiness: societal readiness, organizational readiness, and regulatory readiness. Now, when we talk about societal readiness, this is where we ask if the solutions are really addressing a real societal need, that there has been effective stakeholder engagement and testing, and finally, that people are willing to adopt the solutions and they're willing to pay for these solutions. So that's societal readiness. Organizational readiness is about the capacity of the utilities their infrastructure, their capability, their skills. Questions around how will they integrate these solutions into their existing processes, and what will be the pain to gain ratios for utilities adopting these solutions. So that's organizational readiness. And then you have the regulatory landscape. Utilities can only change if there is a legislative and regulatory framework that is ready and allows the uptake of these changes. So legal readiness is crucial and a priority. It can hinder, but it can also stimulate innovation. So it's a very powerful part of the equation. Now, readiness is a complex issue, and it's not homogeneous. So if you take, for example, energy recovery, we might see a high readiness across all these different dimensions, technology, societal, organizational, and legal. They might all be relatively high. But if we look at, say, material pathways, things like water reuse, then technology readiness might be high. We might know how to do it, but the other dimensions might be low due to actual and perceived risks, where culture plays a big role. I think it's imperative that we use these types of frameworks in the global south to help our utilities understand and appreciate the challenges of transitioning from what are essentially 19th century systems towards this sort of 21st century circular approaches. Such frameworks, from my point of view, can really help utilities understand the journey ahead of them. I just want to finish by talking a little bit about human resource needs. So much is happening in the water sector, in the water resilience description, and a lot of it's happening in the global south. And it looks like there may be some money through various funders like GCF and all of that to do some of this. But you see, there's a big shortage of water professionals in the global south. And this severely hampers their ability to meet the current and future water and sanitation needs. So how do we bridge the enormous gap in human resource capacity? Now, between 2010 and 2014, the IWA carried out a study in 15 low and middle income countries to better understand the human resource capacity gap for water and sanitation. And we're currently in the process of updating this report. What we found in this study was, firstly, the availability of data is very poor on the human resource needs for water and sanitation. Without credible evidence to support the case, we will not be in a good position to make a business case that will attract sufficient investment. In the 15 countries studied, we found that operation and maintenance was chronically neglected because human resources were not being appropriately allocated to this, and that sanitation services in particular were significantly undermined. When we looked at training and education of water professionals, the picture was equally challenging. Education skills required to operate and maintain systems were not being appropriately assessed. And then we can't forget female professionals who are underrepresented, particularly in these technical fields. If, as the Chinese proverb says, women hold up half the sky, should not women also hold up half of the water sector? So we need to work collectively to see how we can address this human resource deficit and to think how we can attract more women and people from non-traditional areas into the sector. Now, while I was doing my research for this presentation, I looked at the third National Development Plan, the NDP3, from Uganda, and it was really heartening to see that there had been some research into the human resource capacity gaps and the needs. And there was also a recognition of what training was available within the country and what training was required outside the country. It showed how important the water sector is in order to address some of these climate challenges that we face. So it was a very interesting study for me to read. I always finish with this slide. And the left-hand side, you have business as usual. We can't stay in that lane. Business as usual is these 19th century approaches. We built our systems, particularly in the West, in the global North, where at a time where we thought water was abundant, we thought the populations will remain relatively small, and we thought the environment was benign. And so we built these systems where we treated water to a high standard drinking water quality. We use that same water for everything. And we use that water once and we threw it away into the environment without thinking about the consequences on the environment. Now we recognize with global change pressures that we can't continue like this. And so we're in the middle lane. We're trying to sort of tinker with our existing systems to see if we can modify them in a way that we can respond to these global change pressures that we're facing. But those systems don't have enough headroom for us to modify them to respond to some of these challenges we're facing. So in my opinion, we should really be in the right lane. And I think it's the global south where they will have this paradigm shift. It's in continents like Africa where they will embrace this new way of thinking around water. They will rethink the way they use water, the way they reuse water. They will think about how they can recover value from the waste streams. They will redesign their systems in a way that water footprint is much more minimized and our systems have this adaptive capacity. I think the opportunity is there in the global south to really be the game changers in terms of solving the problems that the water sector is having. And I believe that it will be the global south that informs and influences the way that the global north start to modify and transition their systems out of these 19th century approaches to the 21st century approaches. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we really put our hands together once again for Professor Kala? Professor, please stay with us a little longer. We may have to speak to part of your presentation in our panel discussion, very short panel discussion we'll have here very shortly. But also, Professor, we are heartened by your very elaborate presentation, and we will have a very small token for you. So I've asked my colleague Mildred to move on the other side, and I will humbly request the Honorable Minister and our chief guest. The Honorable Minister, we have two gifts we want to give. The first one will be from you as a ministry and from you, the Minister, to our chief guest through the Honorable Dr. Otala to the Speaker. So, Honorable Minister, if you can come with the Honorable Otala and hand over the first gift to the Speaker. And the other souvenir and gift will go to Professor Kala, and that will be handed over by our chief guest. So, Professor Kala, we will find a way of delivering it to you. Dr. Kalista, I don't know who will represent Dr. Kala here, so you'll let us know. So, Honorable Minister and Honorable Dr. Otala, please come. The first is for you to the Speaker. So, from the Minister to Honorable Otala to hand over to the Speaker. And the second will be to Professor Kala from our chief guest. So, Honorable Otala will hand over that. So, the first is to you as our chief guest. So Mildred will hand over the first gift, which is from our minister to our chief guest. There you go. With a very beautiful picture of the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Anita Mong. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Dr. Honorable Emmanuel Otala, for representing the Speaker. And now, Mildred, you'll bring the next one, which the Honorable Otala will hand over, or at least hold, and hand over to Dr. Kalist. Please, Dr. Kalist. Yes. The next one, Honorable Otala, you're going to hand over to Dr. Kalist. It's for our keynote speaker, Professor Kala. Professor Kala, if you can watch, this is real. It's not imaginary. Dr. Kalist, come on this side. Come on this side so that, okay, there, Dr. Kalist, you're handing over to Dr. Kalist, who's representing Professor Kala. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, represented by the Honorable Dr. Otala. Thank you so much. You may take your seats. All right. I know we've been seated for too long, so before I invite our panel, may we stand? I really want us to stand, allow the blood to flow to the legs. Some of you may be in dreamland, so now I want to wake you up and get you back into place for our very short panel discussion. And as you stand and stretch your arms, now that you have a neighbor, now there's no more social distancing, so I don't know how you can raise the hands up, yeah? Be mindful. You can call the rain, let's call the rain. We need more rain. The farmers have begun preparing the land. The farmers are excited, the rain has come. Never mind that maybe it's too early or too late, depending on where you come from. All right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. May I take the pleasure of inviting our panelists. I think I'll begin with the Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Otala, who can come and take his seat. Don't worry, Honorable, I'll not keep you too long, because I'm also mindful our TV time has expired, but we have been donated some more time. So I'll work within the time. Feel free to take any seat. As mentioned, the Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Otala is the chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. I want to take the pleasure of inviting our host, the PS of the Ministry of Water and Environment, Alfred Okot Okidi. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for our PS. I now want to invite representing the UNDP resident representative, Mr. Palanivel Thangavel, who is representing the UNDP resident representative. Round of applause. He is a senior economic advisor to the resident rep and also chief of strategy and policy at the United Nations Development Program. Also here, representing the category of Uganda and joining us on the panel is Mugamba Evarist Chizito, who is from the kingdom, of course, but in his own capacity as an environmental development journalist with more than 15 years experience and currently an environment communications consultant with the Uganda Coalition for Sustainable Development. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Mr. Chizito. Also joining us on the panel is somebody who is a friend of environment, Dr. Dick Kamugasha. Dr. Dick Kamugasha is the Deputy Executive Director, Uganda Industrial Research Institute, where, of course, we have applied research, acquisition of appropriate technologies, product development, innovation, industrial skills development, and technology-based business incubation in order to create a strong, effective, and competitive industrial sector here in Uganda. So you're welcome, Dr. Dick Kamugasha. Finally is none other than the Managing Director, Finance Trust Bank, Ms. Annette Mulindwa Nakaunde. Is Ms. Annette here? At least I did expect she would be here with us. Is Ms. Annette here? All right. So please note that the panel is very imbalanced because Annette was meant to balance this panel. But I am trying to also balance this board because we had both Florence is speaking, Dr. Florence was speaking. So we kind of have both. And also we expected the speaker who is also on the other side. So, and since Honorable Otala is here, he's still representing the speaker on the panel. So I apologize on behalf of the ministry for the imbalance. It's really, these days on television, they're calling them manos, only men, a men panel, so it becomes a mano. But I know that Dr. Kalista and the team had tried to balance this panel. So I will begin with you, Honorable Otala. And let's just check that those microphones are working. I just want to make sure. Can we, if you press, there's a button, I think.
Hello?
Yes, Honorable, yours is working. PS, yes. Perfect. It looks, Palani, is yours working? Okay. I'll begin with the Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Otala. And right now you're representing Parliament as the chair of our committee. Listening to Professor Kala speak about a paradigm shift, maybe let's begin there. How can Parliament support this paradigm shift that we need to support this sector, the water and environment sector? Because when you look at the data he shared, not just in Uganda, but the data across the global south, which when he says global south is really the sub-Saharan Africa, it's really wanting. You have 30% of our people who have no access to clean water. You have almost 56% of our people who have no access to sanitation. What can Parliament do to change or support this paradigm shift Professor is speaking to?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mugisha, for your question. And I want to begin from the fact that Parliament has a mandate, and for us as parliamentarians, our roles are basically four. Namely, we represent the people of this country through our various constituencies. We appropriate resources. We provide oversight, especially over the executive in what they are doing, and we are the #1 advocates, advocating for the voiceless. Now, let me underscore the fact that the paradigm shift that the professor articulated so well comes in handy, in that if over and over you are doing things the same way, don't expect to get the different results. And that is the baseline. That if you are doing things the same way, you will continue to get the same result. Now, our water sources and the environment are under assault. What else can we do? What policies and legislations can we put in place to redress this imbalance? So we need to begin to think outside the box and say, what else can we do to change the status quo? And so we as Parliament, I've already underscored our various roles, and we are ready to listen to our technocrats who are led here by the PS on what policies they can put in place as government, the implementing arm of government, so that we as parliamentarians, we can support them. So this really is the gist of the paradigm shift, that can we begin to think outside the box and do things differently? So, and what is it that we need to do, which the professor rightly articulated, that we need to do things differently. And so I don't know how much time I should be speaking on this.
As short as possible, because I don't have too much time.
Yes. So really, I must say that, let me echo my words, that Uganda is not short of good policies. Uganda is not short of good legislations. But what else can we do so that we get different results? That should be our focus of attention in order to address the paradigm shift. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Doctor. I will quickly turn to the PS, and I think PS, the question I was meant to ask was asked by the Honorable Tala himself, as he said, as the lead technocrat in the ministry, they would be expecting that you take the lead in making those policies that speak to a climate resilient development agenda for your sector. Share with us the direction the ministry is taking to speak to what Professor Kala was saying, this paradigm shift we need to adopt as a sector and as a country.
Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. I think as ministry and the sector, there is quite a lot that is already happening, but also we need to do in order to realize that shift. The ministry is at the core of the climate resilience development agenda in this country. And this involves the sustainable management of our water resources, natural resources, and also preparing our people so that they are more resilient. In terms of policies, I think on the side of climate change, we have already advanced and we already have an act in place. We are working on the wetlands. We are amending the one of forestry, and we are also amending that of water. But we are moving away from from doing business the usual way. These challenges are not challenges that government alone can address. That is why, for us as a ministry, we are working very, very closely with so many stakeholders, the religious leaders that are here, the cultural institutions and the leaders, the private sector, together with the development partners and the civil society organizations that have been with us. So we are looking at this as His Eminence said, integrated and interdisciplinary. That is really the core approach. And what we are doing is, we are not focusing now on prescribing for the people, but we are working through the people. And when you look at things like, for example, the climate finance, we are not looking simply at looking for money to address the climate finance. At the moment, globally, the statistics is very depressing. Less than 30% of the climate finance reaches the person at the grassroots levels. We are actually inversing that pyramid to the extent that we are saying no to projects unless if they are able to demonstrate to us that 70% of the funding is going to go down to the grassroots levels. 70% is going to go down to the grassroots levels. Not only that, we are also interesting the private sector into getting into conservancies. And I think, as I speak right now, we have signed, I think, about 2 MOUs. This is not climate change, I hope. 2 MOUs actually on that particular front, so that we integrate the private sector into this shift. And when you come to water itself, we are looking not water as through distribution. We are looking at now water as a resource, because it is finite. In this country, we think we have a lot of water, but the reality is there is scarcity. There is scarcity. So we want to look at that resource. And to look at that resource, again, the approach we do is we look at all the stakeholders involved. And that is why we have the catchment management committees that dictate the kind of development that we do in these various catchments, so that the people, with their knowledge, together with the expertise that we have at the center, come up with solutions that will drive change in the country. I think in the interest of time, let me stop here.
Thank you very much. PS. And I agree now with Dr. Otala in terms of policy and in terms of the thinking at the sector level. We are, and I think at some point, Palani, will want us to speak to what Professor Kala was sharing with us, the examples already in other areas, but I'll come to that. I want to go to Mr. Chizito. Chizito, I like what you've done, and this is just not the first time. The Honorable Hajat, OHT Hajat, has been here before. Even last year we were here with you, and we see the commitment of the kingdom in this conversation, which is really great. But we're now asking, and speaking to what the PS is saying, how much more can the kingdom do to support these initiatives by government to rethink the business as usual mentality we have in protecting the environment and, of course, preserving these water resources we have? Just switch it on.
Much, Morris. I think like you've already recognized our traditional presence each and every year here. I must begin by reminding you that as a kingdom, we have a full ministry in charge of water and environment, plus Burunji Wansi. And the minister is here, like you have already noted. I must also remind ourselves that the kingdom works through the people. Each and every message that is echoed by any official from Mengo goes up to the grassroots. because we have a long that can be broken. And any message that comes from Mengo is like a dog. We never we follow. To mobilize here that most of the climate is environment, nature. So many of the stakeholders in and around Uganda, so with those items that are environmental in nature. Also through sports and games, as one of the tools we mobilize the youth. You will take, for example, the Masaza Cups, or you will take the annual Kabaka Birthday Run, and you've seen how strong the kingdom can mobilize the different stakeholders, most especially the youth. So with that, and you've already recognized Burungi Wansi as one of the best approach towards involving and bringing everybody on board to make sure that we speak the same language. Otherwise, if involve a lot of the stakeholders, the mobilization capacity, then we shall be telling our own story. So, as the kingdom, we rely on the strength of the people. That is through different systems that have been there since time immemorial. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chizito. I really want to apologize, of course, to the audience here in the room, but also those who are with us via Zoom and watching us on NBS and UBC for the audio. We will try and see how we can have a seamless audio. I'm just checking with Palani if Palani's audio is better, or I first go to Doctor. I think you're okay, Palani. All right. So my question for you, Palani, and because you're the custodians of the SDGs, and when I look at the SDGs, all the 17 SDGs, in one way or the other, have something to do with water and environment, whether it's industry, when you look at education, gender equality. When we talk about gender, of course, there's the issue of how the women are able to access water and what happens in our cultures. So let's speak to this. Again, Professor Kala really set a very good tone for this conversation. And as a country, and as among the Global South, how we are able to rethink our strategies and our policies. Because he said what we are doing currently is we're putting more money into what we were already doing. So we're saying, I think we need more funding for the water and environment sector, and yet we are not necessarily reaching the people that the PS said. Only 30% is actually reaching the people. How do we rethink those policies, and what exactly do you believe as the UNDP we need to be doing to actually reach more people?
Okay, thank you, Maurice. Good afternoon, colleagues. Even though I'm presenting here, I'm in fact actually representing a woman panel member, that is a UNDP representative, yes. Madam Elsia Chapla. So you consider that she is sitting here.
Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving me, because this should be Elsie, but it's Palani. That's all right.
So whatever I'm speaking actually her words, even though I deliver it. Thank you, Maurice. The question, like UNDP actually being the developmental agency, we think actually the issue from the developmental point of view. The issue is actually water is a precious, unique, God-gifted resources. Many countries in the world, in fact, do not have sufficient water resources. But fortunately, Uganda has abundant water resources. It has the Nile River, it has the Victoria, largest lake, it also large wetland. So everything is there. But the question is whether, to what extent, as the Right Honorable Speaker delivered it, to what extent that the precious resources is being optimally utilized to addressing poverty, hunger, that kind of challenges. So in that regard, I wanted to actually first highlight the irrigation network in this country or even Africa-wide. I come from India, I come from Asia. I used to work in Asia at the region level. I can tell you that there is one thing different between Uganda and Africa compared to Asia is the kind of very poor irrigation network in most of the African country. Like take Uganda, less than 1% of the arable land is being actually irrigated. So as a result, the yield, the agricultural productivity is very low, not only in Africa, Uganda, it's many other countries compared to many other developing regions. So Uganda population, in order to actually by 2040, Uganda has a developmental vision 2040. By 2040, Uganda would have 75 million people from now, whatever it is, whether 43, 44, 45 million. So in the next 15, 18 years, Uganda need to actually double the food production. So the first thing in my view, I wanted to actually advocate is that find ways to expand the irrigation network is something, but from 1% to at least meaningful 5%, 10% of arable land. If you are able to expand your irrigation network, whatever the new technology, whatever way, that actually would actually be able to help you to, increase the yield, increase the food production, able to not only feed into the growing population, but also would enable Uganda to export to the rest of the African country using the Africa Free Continent trade. Because the Africa Free Continent trade is really a game changer. It is a new framework which Uganda would be able to now export, the food production, food freely to the entire, Africa, particularly the Western Africa where the food is a big issue. So first thing I would say that because there is a scope for the expanding irrigation, unfortunately, many African countries is not actually using that. The second thing I want to highlight is that the water pollution. Like in Uganda, even though water is available abundant way, it is the actually more than like 2/3 or 70-80% of the household do not be able to get very, in a real sense, safe, reliable, water. So what is that actually, as the professor highlighted, how do you actually able to actually use new technology or innovative approaches able to deliver a more safe, reliable, drinking water system? Because believe me, in Uganda, in many of the African countries, 80% of the actually diseases can be attributable to the waterborne diseases. So therefore, addressing the water quality is, in my view, is the second issue. Again, from the developmental point of view, if you really wanted to address the child mortality, all kind of other things, so that's the second issue. The third actually, because the first one, nutrition, is the SDG 2, this one is SDG 3. Similarly, the third one I want to highlight that more than 1/3 of the water resources in this country, it is not actually generated within the country. It comes from the neighboring country. So it's basically the 35% of the water resources in this country is being come from the neighboring country through the, like river system, all kind of other method. So Uganda already working with the neighboring country, the Nile Basin Initiative, which actually the Nile Basin country established more than like 24 years back. The donor also established a Nile Basin Trust Fund to support the Nile Basin country to address the water quality, all kind of other issues. So again, there is still scope for working with other country to improve the water quality and other things. So that's, I wanted to highlight the third one. The fourth point is the development financing. But at the end of the day, if you don't have enough funding, then expanding irrigations or addressing water quality or even actually working with the cross-border water system, you cannot able to do. So therefore, we need to find a sustainable financing mechanism to address all those issues. And some of the actually financing obviously need to come from the government through our community kind of user fee, even though user fee should not be imposed on poor household, they should get somewhat subsidies kind of things. But there is a lot can be mobilized through private sector. So how do you actually use kind of blended financing approach to motivate the large private sector to come and invest in the water resources, either addressing water quality type of things or managing the sustainable water management? I'm not sure, I don't have time, but I just wanted to stop with these 3-4. But of course, obviously, there are other intervention needed. If time permit, I can come back again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Palani. I think Dr. Palani has set the stage to speak to industrialization. As the lead agency promoting industrialization in Uganda. And for those of you who have not been to the Industrial Research Center, please try and maybe engage Doctor here to invite you, because there is a lot of work being done there. There are innovations across the different sectors that are being developed within the Research Institute. Is really mind-boggling and amazing work Ugandans are doing. But we want to speak along the lines of not industrialization now, but it's industrialization with a mindset of climate resilience. How much are you doing as an institute, as a research center, to innovate for industrialization? And of course, as Palani said, we must think about increasing the production of our own products and goods here in Uganda. How are we speaking to the climate resilience, even as you continue to promote industrialization? What is it you're doing as a center that is speaking to climate resilience and this climate resilience development agenda?
Thank you, Maurice. Basically, I think my point of departure in this dialogue, the fact that as a country, we have already committed to accelerated industrialization. And most aspects of industrialization run counter to the interests of water and environmental conservation. Because accelerating industrialization not only demands for higher quantities of water, high premium processed water at that, but it also, like previous speakers have said, generates several grades of wastewater, which requires treatment, chemical, biological, and other techniques. And those treatment processes, probably what didn't come out very well, are themselves industrial in nature and scale. So what we end up with is a vicious cycle, where even the processes you're trying to use to solve a problem are compounding a problem, because our footprint for energy in waste treatment, in incineration, also affects the environment. So in a nutshell, it's a very big problem. But as URI, as Uganda Industry Research Institute, there are a number of interventions that we are at the forefront of promoting. But our existence is, of course, a reflection of the commitment of the country towards helping with the problem at hand. But there are a number of things we can do, and very quickly I can mention. Number one, utilizing technologies and production processes that minimize wastewater. And when we, at URI, we talk about appropriate technology and promote appropriate technology, that's one of the factors we look at. Number two, replacing outdated machinery and equipment that is not helping us with regard to water and energy efficiency. Again, our institution is playing a lead role in promoting that. Then there's minimizing the amount of water that you can use in production. And when we train, that's one of the areas we touch on, because Professor Kala, previous speakers said, you look at water as money, what it can do for you, save for you, then you start to respect it and you respect the environment by extension. Then I liked what Professor Kala said in his keynote speech, where he said you don't have to use drinking water or drinking water grade for everything, because you can reuse non-potable water for other operations, process, and if you're running a factory, I wish there were manufacturers here, you'll go inside the factory space and find all of these water conservation measures, but you walk outside and they're sprinkling the lawns with huge volumes of water. So that's an issue of sensitization, of understanding, aligning mindsets so that people appreciate water in its totality, not just in the mainstream of manufacturing. There's a lot we can do to optimize production processes using new technologies. We're in the fourth industrial revolution now. There's a lot you can do with gadgets, with digitization, to help you control even the toilets in the bathrooms. What are we doing there? So it's a broad problem, but there are very, very many things we can do in terms of retrofitting our existing factories as they are, reduce the footprint of water consumption. Last but not least, it's the attitude. With all the technology and efficient technology in the world, your operator is not sensitized to the importance and the doctrine of solving water and environmental conservation. You will find that the practices of your operator negate all the efforts you're doing on the technology front. So one of the things we do as an institution is train people and communities to appreciate those simple things, even before they interface with production.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I now want to, because I'm managing time, Dr. Callisto, I am careful to know that we only have about 12 minutes left of TV time. So, Mildred, I know you have a microphone there in case there's a quick question for any of our panelists or a general comment, let us know, we'll come to you. And also those of you online, we should be able to check in the chat room and also on the YouTube platform, but also on Twitter to take a question or comment. I saw one here, Mildred. So, yes. And then any other? I need to pick you so I know where you are, and then we close. So I come back to my panel for the last question. Yes, your names, please, and the question.
Name is Tamara Rose. Presenting myself,
yes.
Would like the man from Uganda to
yes.
say a few words because we didn't hear anything.
Okay. He said, Mbozi bagalo yogereko ku Uganda, mbu tebakuwulidde kizito. So ndowooza abantu bafe abali eka abali ku TV bajja kwagala tuwulireko bye mukola nga Kingdom ku kintu kya Mazi. In Uganda, in a few minutes. That is very nice. Omuntu wawansi. Hajat, I would have been surprised, Hajat, if you left without saying anything.
I would have been surprised too.
Yes.
So I'm moving there.
She's very active on the COP group and very, very active climate activist. Yes, go ahead, Hajat.
Thank you so much. My name is Hajat Seviala, Hajat Green. I am a board member of Uganda Meteorological Authority. Dr. Tala, thank you much for your presentation. This has been on for a very long time that we have got so many policies that you put in place, but implementation is the problem. I'm wondering what Parliament can do to ensure that actually all the policies you put in place are implemented. What is it that you can do? Yes, and finally, I carried a tree for you, and I think I'll have an opportunity to give it to you. I thank you so much.
Perfect. Hajat, I'll give you the opportunity to hand over that tree for Honorable. He needs to go and plant it in Tororo, especially. Okay. Quick, yes, here. I like, okay, now the ladies are representing.
We are balancing the
panel.
act.
We have balanced it. Yes, ladies, please.
Yes, we had to balance the boat. My question goes to the PS. I'm happy you mentioned about the 70% funding directed to the grassroots now. However, I had a chance to work with the workers from Kingfisher. And I think this is where our problem has been, where you have so many development partners coming in or NGOs, but they stay in Kampala. and the needs at the grassroots are enormous. I'm just wondering whether this is actualized or you're still talking about it. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start, Honorable Otala. Thank you, Hajat, and I want to appreciate the fact that you are helping me towards planting trees. We need to encourage this the more, but also going hand in hand with the Bulungu-Bwansi, we need to declare more national tree planting days. More tree planting days, but also Bulungu-Bwansi days. Now, having said that, I want to address the question that you said, that I did state here that we are not short of good policies, we are not short of good legislations, but what can Parliament do to enforce the implementation of those laws and policies? I want to just give one example of the Climate Change Act. Parliament did pass this act, and that was the 10th Parliament. And now this is 2 years down the road in the 11th Parliament. I can assure you, very soon we are going to sanction the relevant ministry for failing to implement the Climate Change Act, actually bringing it into effect. The other way of how we normally bite is to demand for action taken reports. And the Right Honorable Anita Annette Among, whom I'm representing here today, has really been at the forefront of biting. Every 3 months, when we make a recommendation and a ministry has not come up with a statement to tell us what they have done, we sanction them. Come and tell us the action you've taken towards this. And in this way, we are actually making sure that the policies and legislations and regulations that we pass are implemented to the letter and to the spirit. Finally, allow me to say that when we talk about climate resilience, that phrase or that issue is not being developed here in Uganda. The whole world has been talking about climate resilience. So Uganda is not inventing the wheel, so to say. There have been so many protocols already signed so that we are able to do things differently. What really we need to do is, I realize that so many of you went to COP27, for example. Protocols were signed. How can we tailor those international protocols to suit our own environment? That is what we should be doing. We should not be, industrialization should not be fighting with the environmental protection. We need to balance the boat, as you've already said. Yes. How can we balance development with the use of our water resources as well as conservation of our environment? All right. The environment the environment and all these resources are meant for us, the citizens, but we must also use them as we protect them for progeny. So that is the way we should go. All right. I thank you, Mr. Thank you, Morris. Honorable. Thank you, Honorable. PS, very quickly. I don't know if you can do it in 30 seconds.
Thank you, Morris. I think just to touch on what the Member of Parliament has said, my chair said. Actually, as we speak right now, we are actually evaluating the national budget for climate change compliance. We have issued actually an interim report based on 2 parameters. We have gone back to evaluate on 5 other parameters. So the Climate Change Act is alive, although we have not appropriated enough money. but we are moving. Now, the 70% is real, and we have got actually partners who bought into this thinking, and we have the Irish government, the UK government, the US government, and our good friends from Austria have indicated they are looking at it. Likewise, the Kingdom of Denmark. And there is a special drive and a special project we are piloting. We are actually front-runner country as Uganda, and we have started pilot in 12 districts. But also the projects we are submitting right now to the various green funds, that is the principle we apply. So it is real. Thank you.
Thank you, PS. And Honorable Tala, even for those who went to COP and the team is here, there was an evaluation of the resolutions from COP last week. I think the team was here in the same building, already looking at the protocol signed and also Uganda's, what was Uganda's direction, speaking from the resolutions of COP27. I'll quickly come to Dr. Dick, and then I'll come to Palani, and finally Chizito. If it's a burning one, Mildred, I see a hand there. So I'll come to you, Dick. Let's speak to, as Mildred goes there, the fourth industrial revolution. And how can we benefit from this fourth industrial revolution as we talk about water security? In a minute, if you're able to. I know it's too much for a minute, but you'll try.
Yeah, that's a big challenge. The fourth industrial revolution really has opportunities and offer us in terms of dealing with water resource management and environmental protection. And mainly, one of the factors we can exploit is use of blockchain technologies for improved water resource management. There's a lot we can do in that area because they offer, for example, capacity to enable us to have households, agriculturalists, industrialists, water resource managers, and even the policymakers that we're talking about access the same data. One of the problems is the data I access to make informed decision. So if you have leakages in the data or disparities in the data, it becomes very difficult to plan for what is a very big resource. Because water is life, and we all interface in it. Mwananchi is interfacing it, and as much as very good ministry is, industrialists are using it, but unless the data we access is on the same platform with reliability, then we're going to have constant struggles. And this is an area, when Professor Kala was presenting, he talked about where Africa is lagging behind, Uganda being no exception, in terms of adaptation, the speed at which we adapt. One of the glaring problems is data. In our capacity to deal with, so we look at things like big data and artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. Our connectivity on the Internet being a weak means that even when the data is available, we are probably not receiving it as dynamically as we should. But these are things we can embrace because I think, unlike the previous revolutions, 4IR allows us to somehow catch up faster in some areas, and I think this is one of them.
All right.
Where we have an opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I know I put you on the spot. I think religious leaders have to say something before I cross there. Please, in 30 seconds, if you can. I have...
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Right, Constantine Bonaving, I'm the Executive Secretary, Uganda Joint Christian Council. Our issue is on water and environment mindset change. Already for us, we have started it. We have committees on the ground. They are called Ecumenical Joint Action Committees. And then we are also going to do what we call plastic bottles management. Now, all we need from you is moral support and financial support. But otherwise, because we are going to spend 60 years, we are going to have celebrate 60 years, of our existence in Uganda, that's the gift we want to give to the Ugandans, that all of us must do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As Mildred goes to that gentleman in white, Mildred, you see him, he's on the end there.
Yes,
he told me he's going to use only 10 seconds.
We'll see to that. Let me
Yes.
get that
And
close.
then you can keep the microphone after that. I will not ask you to move anywhere else. Don't worry.
Well, we well know that the
Names,
causes,
please. Names, please. So we
all
know.
the consumers.
Names, please.
This is Dr. Jibril Semakula Omucha.
Yes, doctor.
We all know that the consumers of Uganda's forest recover are land grabbers and charcoal burners. On a daily basis, we see trucks of charcoal loitering around Kampala, Mbalala, and other towns. Team, when will Uganda start cooking using electricity? When you go to Tanzania, biogas is highly used. But here, us, we are largely depending on forests to cook. In a period of 30 years, you know that the forest recovery has decreased up to 12.8%, meaning the restoration process is negligible. So how many years do we need to recover the Uganda's forest recovery?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, doctor. And for me, the bigger risk, yes, Mildred, go ahead.
And maybe one that came in from engineer Gideon Oloka.
Yes.
He says, how can we continue talking about sustainable development when a majority of our people are actually outside the development bracket? And he suggests that a majority of the people are still in the survival zone and not the development bracket. And he goes ahead to say that environment and natural water resources, the only good neighbor of the poor person for survival. You know what that exactly means.
I hear him 100%, and I think a lot of us agree. Palani, a minute, you had a rebuttal on a critical issue, yes?
Okay, just 2 minutes. The first minute is actually, I agree with the keynote speaker that the importance of integrated water resource management. First thing is that actually, as we discussing, the water resources is linked with the various other issues, socio-economic development, gender equalities, economic development, urbanization, all kind of issues. So health, educations, all kind of range of issues. So that's a very key point we need to actually. Where the country has that kind of actually capacity or financing to implement integrated water resource management, that is something, yes, we need to look into that. And developmental agency, whether it's a UNDP, other bilateral donor, need to invest more on capacity development, all kind of the increasing awareness risings, improving the transparency, accountability, water resource management, mobilizing more resources. I can go on add a number of actually ways that can be done. So that's my first response is that definitely, integrated water resource management key that require capacity development, more investment, capacity development, and more investment needed to attract private sector resources into this one, leverage new technology, all kind of things. The second point, what actually the UN system in these countries do. In Uganda, a number of UN agencies has very comprehensive WASH program, the water, education, health, all kind of other program. Take UNDP, I can speak in UNDP. UNDP is actually identified that wetland restoration is an important issue. Like as right honorable speaker made that, in this country, the countries tend to lose forest coverage, wetlands coverage. So therefore, Uganda, thanks to the Austrian government, generous fund, also we mobilize the Green Climate Fund. We have secured, a decent money. We are working in 24 districts in eastern Uganda and western Uganda to restoring wetland one, which is critical for integrated water resource management, addressing actually poverty, other challenges. The second one, we also recognize the importance of regional cooperations, as I said in my previous actually intervention, because the 1/3 of the resources come from the kind of the interregional arrangement. So therefore, UNDP is again working with the government of Uganda the Nile Basin Initiative. I mean, we are working with promoting regional cooperation. That's the second thing I can say that. The third one, we are also saying that we in the water actually stressed region in this country, like Karamoja region, and food security is an important issue. UNDP is again working with actually community people, local government, to improving the water access, kind of try to strengthening the micro irrigation system so that actually it's help the healthy ecosystem. It's also improve the water access by the household, and it also improve the food security. So these are some of the examples from UNDP side, and I want to highlight given these 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Palani. Everest Kizito, obadde n'ekibuuzo awo. Ndowooza kati abantu baagala kuwulira.
Weewaawo. Neeyanziza eri omuntu waffe atandikirwako, saagala kumuyita wa wansi. Omuntu waffe atandikirwako. Ffe kye tukola nga gavumenti ya Buganda, Buganda Kingdom, nga tuyita mu ministry yaffe ey'ettaka, ey'obutonde bw'ensi n'amazzi, wamu ne ministry yaffe endala ey'ebyemizannyo. Tukunga abantu mu bungi, abantu ab'enjawulo nga mwotadde naddala abavubuka, okusobola okubatuusaako obubaka obw'enjawulo entakera, nga mwotadde n'obubaka obw'amazzi n'obutonde bw'ensi. Mu mbeera y'emu tukubiriza abantu okwettanira nnyo enkola ya bulungi bwansi, kuba enkola ya bulungi bwansi eno yava dda. Omuntu akimanyi nti alina oluwalo olw'okulongoosa waasula oba waabeera, okufuba okulaba nti omugga mw'ajja amazzi guba muyonjo, tatematema miti gy'ataasimba oba gy'atakkirizibwa kutema. Alina okukuuma obutonde bw'ensi naye busobole okukola ki? Okumukuuma. Ekyo bulijjo Ssaabasajja Kabaka akikola. Enkola eya bulungi bwansi tevangawo, ate abanoonyereza bangi bakirabye nti yekyasinze okukola, kubanga yo teriiko kusasulwa, era akola talina kyasuubira nti anaasasulwa kino, naye abantu bakola kyeyagalire ate ne kikolera ddala bulungi.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to thank the panel. But before I let you go, Professor Kala, I know Professor is still online. Professor, in case you have a parting shot, 30 seconds parting shot, so I can actually, or we can benefit from you. Professor, over to you. Just a minute, Professor. Let's get your audio. Yes, now we can hear you. Go on, Professor.
Can you hear me okay? Yep.
Yes.
What I'd like to say is that, you know, the interventions that I just heard from the various panelists was excellent. And having worked in Uganda and having trained a lot of the water professionals in Uganda, I will say that, you know, there's a lot of potential to manage water sustainably in Uganda. You have a great university in Makerere. You have a great water utility, the National Water and Sewage Corporation, probably one of the most famous utilities in the world. And you have some very good knowledge institutions. And I think if you can create a system where all of these different actors are coming together to address some of the challenges that exist, I think Uganda can really be a model for the rest of Africa and also the developing world on how to better manage water. We already are learning a lot from Uganda, and you know, it is really one of the trailblazers in terms of development and water management. That's all I would like to say, and I would just also like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It was really an honor and a pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for Professor Kala and our panelists. Professor, please stay on the screen. Can we keep Professor on the screen as I request my panelists to stand for one photo? So, Ministry team, can we? This is a very nice. So, you please stand. PS Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, represented here by the Honorable Tala, Palani, Everest, Dr. Kamgasha, and we have the keynote speaker also in the background. So please, if you're a photographer, don't cut the keynote speaker outside of this photo. It's critical that the keynote speaker remains in this photo. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, put your hands together for our panelists and our keynote speaker. And I want to invite Mildred to take us through the next phase. We want to thank our broadcast partners, NBS and UBC, for having granted us more time so we could at least add the panel discussion to the airtime. We thank you. We know we are transitioning to normal programming, but over to Mildred for the closing bits of our opening ceremony. Thank you, Honorable.
And to our lovely panel, I just request, before you get seated, please, I am going to request that we have our commemorative art piece brought just a little closer so we can have you sign against it. This is a reminder, it is a commitment to protecting water, to protecting our environment resources, our water sources, but also a commitment to dealing with climate resilience, whether it is industrialization, agriculture, or whatever that we get to plan to do. So to all our panelists, I'm going to request that we move in. And additionally to the panelists, Dr. Roswither, please, you will be able to join and sign in that commemorative piece. Hajat Mariam, please do not forget, please join in that commemorative piece signing. Dr. Querido from Food and Agriculture Organization, I'm kindly requesting that you come through and sign that commemorative piece. His Eminence, Mzee, please join the team, sign up, let's commit to that. And Honorable Member of Parliament, who also came along with Dr. Otala, I kindly request that you join in. This is a commitment from the House. This is a commitment from our August House that this is well supported. And yes, Hajat, you promised a tree to Honorable Otala. We cannot forget that, please. Honorable Otala, after this, you have a tree to go and plant. And, well, Hajat is bringing it. I do not know which tree it is, but she will let you know. So, Hajat, as Honorable Otala concludes signing on that commemorative art piece, we'll give you the chance to hand over the tree to him. And we have a few more vote of thanks awards to the panelists. So let's just get done with the commemorative art piece signing. I know some of you are signing against something. You actually are asking, what is this art piece about? Art is a hard language, and I will definitely ask our painter. I am doing this by design, that I'm not mentioning his name, that I will give him a chance to be able to tell us his name and what this art piece is actually about. He will stand by next to the art piece after signing and let us know. Because if I asked any of the persons who signed against this what they understand about the art piece, it may be foolhardy to go on with that. Okay, the signing is done. I would just like us to know what this art piece is about and the message therein. So to our lovely artist, and he does a lot of these, if you have a birthday, if you have whatever it is, as long as you want to commemorate it through art, he will be able to come through. So let's have Doctor sign that off. And then we will get an explanation of what the art piece is here.
Thank you, Madrid. Yes, my name is Roland Stibirusi. I'm a visual artist, and why the painting is a commemorative piece that captures the spirit of Uganda Water and Environment Week 2023. So it's as acrylic on canvas, and why we are signing this piece is to pledge a commitment. We are different partners, different contributors to this. So it is a special piece that captures that with a theme. And I think I would want to say today is special because it's opening ceremony. Thank you, the organizing team, and I'm grateful that you gave me.
Okay, and Doctor is handing over a tree to Dr. Otala. Please plant that tree. Because at some point in time we will be asking, how is the tree doing? Has it grown? Is it bearing fruit? We will be taking on those questions. Okay, for just a minute, I will give you this microphone.
This tree is to Dr. Otala. Really appreciate you for chairing that committee of Parliament, which is very, very key. Concerning environment, natural resources, please go and plant this tree. It's a fruit tree It's a beautiful tree, and you can call it whatever name you want. But maybe today is the Uganda Water and Environment Week. So you plant it. Also encourage all members of Parliament to plant trees. And let everybody here please go back and plant a tree in commemoration of this day. I thank you so much. My name is Hajati Sebiala Hajati Green, and you can see me, I'm evergreen. I thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Honorable Tala, just before you leave, I'll be asking for the fruits of that because you're going to perform another function for us. Honorable, I will invite the PS who is going to be giving us a commemorative award as well to Honorable Tala. I love this. When you're the guest speaker, when you're the guest of honor, everything good goes to you. Eh? So strive to be a guest of honor. That's a beautiful one. And PS, just before you leave, I will also request, you say they say it's a blessing to give. So after you give, you receive. So Honorable Tala will also give the PS an award. It's a beautiful thing to give. When you give, you receive. So this is exactly what's going on. So Honorable Otala is handing that over to our PS, Ministry of Water. Okay, and then now I will request the PS to stay kindly because you will be witnessing the handover of these other awards. Hajat Maria Mayanja from Buganda Kingdom, thank you so much for always being a part of these. Every time I've been here for the Water and Environment Week, Hajat will always come. She will sit and watch every proceeding go on until it's done. So Hajat, thank you so much, and also to Buganda Kingdom. This goes to the Katikiro. Please deliver that to the Katikiro, Charles Peter Maiga. Wechtiwa, we are very humbled for the support Buganda Kingdom is offering to protecting water sources, protecting our environment resources. And now, Dr. Palani, you will be coming in to take this on behalf of the UNDP resident rep. So Ms. Elsie Atafwa couldn't be able to be with us, but Dr. Palani was here, ably represented. Please give our vote of thanks to her for all the work that United Nations Development Program has done. We are indebted. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Palani. And as well, Dr. Dick Kamgasha. I think you shouldn't be so far away because the next one will be going to you, Dr. Dick Kamgasha. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. It's incredible. It's for the development of Uganda. And I love that we're looking at the future to come, the future generations, that all the work that's being done with regard to environment is not just for us, but for those who will come right after us. Can we be able to bequeath a beautiful environment, a beautiful country to the next generation? That is the biggest question that ought to be answered every day. Okay, it's not done until it's done. So I am going to request Roland, if we could just move this art piece just a little bit to where it was earlier. And I'm going to invite the persons who are behind these, who have made possible this day to come to pass. It's going to be a week. There have been pre-activities, the National Organizing Committee, and of course, Dr. Adongo. Please kindly lead your team as the chairperson, Dr. Kalist, and everyone else, please. We are requesting the entire National Organizing Committee to come for a photo moment with the PS and Dr. Ota and our Speaker of Parliament, okay? The Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Triple A, as many call her. So we are going to request that the entire National Organizing Committee come right here. Make sure you're not in the crop zone. Stand strategically that you're not in the crop zone. We are just asking. If you stand too far away from the main subject, the center, you know you will be cropped. So the entire, okay, this is going to be a bit bigger. So if you know God created you when he still had a lot of height, And you're not down to earth like me, like you're not short. Down to earth is just a simple term for, us who are not very tall. So if you know God gave you enough height and you're not as down to earth as myself, please make sure that you can be at the back. But let's have a few more at the front. Please make sure you're not in the crop zone. I am just reminding you, they will be cropping the picture to fit it somewhere and you will not see yourself. So we have a few more spaces right down here. Yeah, we can have a few more people come down here. Okay, right there. So after this picture, we had our commemorative piece signed. Roland, thank you so much. That is a lovely one. Okay, so we say water, because besides, by the time you finish the word, you have your teeth out, so you're smiling. It gives an the last bit that you say. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for sparing your time. Oh, yes, please. The religious and our cultural leaders, please come. Let's have a picture with, for you, it's not as many, and our development partners. Dr. Corridor, I'll keep calling you out because you're a stakeholder in this. We're talking about food, we're talking about agriculture. Dr. Corridor, please join. Yes, please join this picture. One of the biggest stakeholders. You can't talk about food and agriculture without water and the environment. So Dr. Corridor, please join that. And yeah, let's have this picture. And this will be our very last. Of course, how had I seen that Dr. Palani remained? How had I not seen? Our development partners, our religious leaders, our cultural leaders, all in one picture. The people that matter in this conversation with every one of us. Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for sparing time to be with us in Dr. Tala. And thank you to our PS, great work. And we hope that there will be more and more resources, monies to that. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, invite Dr. Kallis to just give us a vote of thanks and our very last say for the day before we get to wind this up. But there will be week-long activities. Most of them will be online. Others will be physical here up until Friday when we'll be closing this.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me to give a big applause to our moderators. They have led us very, very well. Mildred and Maurice, thank you very much. On behalf of the team that has been organizing this event, we want to thank all of you for staying with us up to this late hour. We know we have gone beyond the time we're supposed to stop, but you have managed to be with us. Let's give you a big applause. Organizing committee, let's clap for our visitors. As has been mentioned, we are here for the whole week, and we have just had an opening ceremony, and I hope all of you have got this copy of the book, which gives an indication of what is going to follow. And I really would want to request you not to miss what is coming from tomorrow. Tomorrow at 9, we are going to be having a keynote presentation on policy, legal, and institutional frameworks for climate resilient development. We have a keynote speaker from the National Planning Authority who will be talking to us, and we shall be having a number of panelists, and this one is going to be on Zoom and also physical. So we shall be in this room from 9 to 11 a.m. So please come and join in. But in case you are not able to join in, you can connect on Zoom, and we have shared the Zoom links widely. If you have not got, let us know. But we will have very, very interesting panelists tomorrow. On Tuesday, tomorrow after the keynote and panel, we have a number of parallel sessions. We have trainings, we have technical presentations, we have side events, and we have other dialogues. So again, look through this program, and you will see what will follow. On Tuesday, we have another session on climate resilient communities, ecosystems, and infrastructure. Again, from 9 to 11 a.m., we shall be having a keynote speaker from International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, who will be speaking online. And we also have another interesting set of panelists. And for each of these panels, we have members of parliament. So again, one of them, Honorable, will be on Tuesday as part of the panel.
helping us to understand issues related to climate resilient communities, ecosystems, and infrastructure. And after that, we shall also be having a number of parallel sessions which we are encouraged to come for. On Wednesday, we shall be having a presentation on capacity and partnerships for climate resilient development. The keynote speaker is the Director of Water Division of Water Sciences, at UNESCO in Paris. Again, we shall be having a number of panelists from within and outside Uganda, so don't miss this. And we shall also be having side events. On Thursday, we shall be having a panel and keynote on innovative financing mechanisms. We shall be having an expert on financing from Accord, Coalition for Development and Environment here in Uganda, and we shall be having a number of panelists. After that, we shall have presentation, technical presentations, side events, and trainings. Then on Friday, we shall start wrapping up with the final side events. One of the side events we have is on discussing innovative ideas and solutions within the framework of the Water Resources Institute. Again, we want to invite you to come and see what the Water Resources Institute has been able to do and what it can be able to do with you. In the afternoon, we shall be having a closing session. And we have a panel that is going to be discussing the outcomes of the Uganda Water and Environment Week. And they will be helping us to look ahead as we plan for next year. Then we shall be having a closing ceremony where we expect the third Deputy Prime Minister to be the guest of honor. So ladies and gentlemen, we really want to thank you for coming. We want to request you to be with us in this whole week. Very, very interesting discussions. Before we end, I really would want to invite you to go down and see the exhibitions. During the whole week, we have a number of partners that are showing innovative ideas on how to deal with these challenges of water, environment, and climate change. So before we go, I want to invite you to pass there for just a few minutes and see what people have. And these exhibitions are going to be there the whole week. Again, we want to celebrate the opening ceremony, and the organizers have arranged some cocktail to celebrate the opening of this event. So please don't go without celebrating with us. We have some eats, we have some drinks. This will be the time where we can exchange and interact, since we haven't had much time to interact during this session. With those, I want to thank everybody, thank our partners. As you can see, we have many, many partners that have supported us, and I want us to give them a very big applause. The Minister of Water and Environment wouldn't have managed to organize this event without the partners we have. Again, we have the logos of all the partners, as you can see. We shall continue seeing these. We shall continue appreciating the partners the whole week. We shall also have the logos on the ministry's website for the next 1 year, so that everybody can know who has actually been with us during this event. With this, I want to thank you once again and wish you all the best. We apologize for the delay, but we thank you, and I thank the organizing committee for the work well done, and of course for having a good start. Thank you very much and wish you all the best. So let's move. Probably the PS will read the guest of honor and the team for the refreshments before we leave. I'm told that Maurice, we needed probably a closing prayer. Yes, let me give the Secretary General Uganda Joint Christian Council. I'm told that we need a closing prayer.
Let us pray. God our Father, we thank you for this, for the gift of one another here. We thank you for what has been deliberated today. We thank you for all the partners who made this function successful. We ask you to bless our decisions, the decisions we have made to make Uganda a better place for everyone to live in. We pray for the government of Uganda, especially for those who make policies and implement policies. May you give them strength to do so, so that Uganda will be really the pearl of Africa. We ask this through Christ our Lord.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and for those online, including our keynote speaker.